Yeah, hi, good morning, Kelvin MacKenzie here. I am puzzled. I'm not sure I'm irritated, but I didn't realise that the game of politics is changing so much. So I've just seen a line just running now. The White House authority have just released how much money Donald Trump made. That's kind of either through an investment or whatever, through cryptocurrency over the last year. And it's $2 billion. $2 billion. Now, what he wasn't doing is it's not corruption, because corruption is, I'll tell you what, give that road building site to Mick the road builder, and I'll take a 10-15% kickback on the cost of building the roads. That is corruption. What Trump is doing, and in a sense, I'm watching the same thing happening in the UK with Farage, is what he's doing is saying, I am a famous person, I am the president, I'm the president of the world, I've got my own Twitter following, and I am going to make billions of dollars for me and my family. So I see that even his negotiator out in Gaza and Iran got his kids involved in it. He's got his own kids involved in it. Everybody, with the exception of Mike Graham, is making billions out of some crypto issue, right? Which is, obviously, when you look at my face, I'm too old to understand it. I can scarcely spell it, okay? I want you to actually, I tell you what, I want you to actually send me some texts, emails, do what you like, right? Just contact me to say whether you think it's right that the President of the United States, right, not only sets up his own Twitter called Truth Social, which I'm 100% in favor of, but it makes me laugh that you have a president who's not distributing his thought processes on a global basis anymore. He's actually sending it through one of his own kind of distribution methods, which is making him money, because the value of Truth Social has gone like that. I was wondering I could start one up based in the northwest of the country called Untruth Social. Now, you'd have to be local to understand that one. So the alternative is going down the gold route. So the headline in the Times, Farage makes $22,500 an hour with a deal with a gold dealer. He becomes the face of it. Now, I suspect if you knocked on any door and you're a Reform voter, you say, I don't give a stuff about this. I don't care how much money they're making, as long as it's legal, right? And the fact the guy's famous and he's worked damned hard, he can have any money he likes. Now, I agree with that if you're a Reform voter. Where I think the challenge for Farage comes in our country, and I don't know whether this is true in the States, and I'm going to come to Mike Graham, who generously has come in a minute. If you are a Reform voter, it probably doesn't matter. If you are thinking, shit, I'm a Conservative, I'm thinking of going to Reform, have you a different view of the fact that he's making this kind of money? Because it's a new idea. Get to power, be a politician. You see, if you come out of the trade union movement, actually becoming an MP at 90 odd grand a year, 95,000 a year, actually fantastic, you've got promotion. And even better if you started a charity of some kind, and nobody took any notice of you in the high street, and suddenly you're saying you've got a charity for people who've lost their thumb in agricultural accidents, right? So everything's going rather nicely. You're actually getting your food paid for, and now you're getting 95 grand a year, and and somebody on Newsnight is actually showing some interest in your clapped out left-wing views of life. But now we've got a group of people who now look upon politics as a way of becoming A, famous, like in the entertainment world, and B, then cashing in on it. Okay, I personally wish that didn't happen. There's not a law against it, but I just wish it didn't happen. And I'm a massive fan of Farage, well, clever guy, who I'm told, by the way, is going to put his feet up for the summer, because I think he feels knackered. And he's probably sick and tired of the attacks on him, especially about that $5 million which washed up in his bank account the other day from Mr. Harborne. And so anyway, I think he's going to take it a bit easier, which is a good thing, because I think if he carried on at that pace, I think he might be quite ill. But more important, as important as my views, might I say, is my colleague Mr. Graham, Mike Graham, who does spectacular numbers where I do piss poor numbers. And now at some stage, I've just been informed by the producer that must change. Otherwise, this rather ugly visage won't be existing at 10 o'clock. It won't be existing at all. And I'll be talking to the Weybridge Rotary Club every Wednesday. Mike, so Trump has just announced, the governing authority of America, in fact, have just announced he's made $2.2 billion, right? Plus his investments in Truth Social, right? Plus this, plus that, plus that. You've spent a lot of time in America. You've still got quite a few family in America.
Yeah.
What's your view?
Well, I think this is all about the sort of unfortunate attitude that we have in this country where people don't really like success. They don't like people making money. I was listening on the way in to some commentators talking about this, and that, you can sort of hear them salivating, that the journalists, because they're a bit better paid now than they used to be, some of them, but an awful lot of them aren't.
Oh, they're not well paid. Journalism is a shocking game. Well, don't go into journalism. You end up looking like me and Mike.
Yeah, but I mean, the point is that it's a lot better paid than it used when you and I started out in it. It wasn't very well paid at all.
No,
but it suddenly became this. You can make £500,000 a year if you're, a good presenter, or if you're, an executive or something like that nowadays. If you work for a big company. But there's this kind of, I don't know if it's envy, but they just don't like success. I remember when I moved to America in 1983. One of the reasons I left Britain was because if you had a nice car in Britain, and I was sort of just starting out in journalism, but if you had a nice car, somebody would run a key down it, and they'd go, "Oh, look at that." Toff, whatever. Yeah. In America, suddenly I arrived in New York, and the world was literally my oyster. People were like, "Great, if you had a nice car," they came over and asked you where you got it, and they were interested, in people who make money. In this country, we're kind of ashamed of it, and I think that we are in a modern. Nigel Farage would probably say, "I'm not a politician who's making a load of money. I'm a celebrity who's making a load of money." I mean, because one of the reasons he's so well known is because he went on, "I'm a celebrity, get me out of it."
But that's not the only reason. He was well known before that.
Yeah.
Okay, and I do accept that he is the face of it.
Yeah.
Tell me this: would anybody pay Angela Rayner $22,500 to be the front of a gold deal, or would they pay her that money not to be?
Well, I suspect the latter, but she doesn't do badly. I mean, she's been speaking at housing conferences, believe it or not, for which she probably charges about 25 grand if she's got a decent agent. Yeah. They're all at it, and the thing that's different now, for example, with British politicians, look at Tony Blair. I mean, he's a multi-millionaire. Yeah. And I know his family have maybe contributed some of that, but I mean, you now get a foundation, you suddenly get a couple of board directors' jobs, working for the JP Morgan or something like that.
True.
And I was always amazed in America about how the senators all on $120,000 a year, they're all multi-millionaires. And you kind of go, well, how's that work?
By the way, I've always puzzled that. Yeah. How is that possible?
Because they're all obviously involved in all manner of different sort of things that make them money.
Are you allowed to? I didn't realise this. Are you allowed to be a senator plus have commercial interests?
Oh, yeah.
Are you allowed to sit on boards or stuff?
I believe so. Yeah, I don't know if they're actually physically on the board, but they're certainly allowed to be paid money by lobbyists, and they're certainly. I mean, they call it. Yeah, they call it pork barreling and all this kind of thing.
Yeah, I do understand that. I didn't know that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't. I think there's certainly. I think you still have to be reasonably transparent about who's giving you the money, but there's nothing wrong with getting it. And I think that's the way we should be.
Okay, let me ask you this. I'm the President of the United States. I'm supposed to be there. I'm putting this argument, not because I believe in it, but this is an argument. You're the President of the United States. You're supposed to be there for everybody.
Yeah.
Right. Well, that obviously is not happening in the Trump case. So, but $2 billion is an amount of money which funnily enough, I understand 22,500 much more than I can understand 2 billion.
Yeah.
Don't you think that's an astonishing amount of money when you're the president? And if you're the president, do you just say, I tell you what, I've had a good run in life. I was a billionaire anyway. I'm going to give the money away.
Yeah, you could do that. I mean, certainly there are people over there who quite openly say, coming up, it's Thursday today, right? It's Friday tomorrow. Trump will make some announcement about the Straits of Hormuz, and then he'll short oil. And then on Monday he'll say something else and he'll sell it. And that's, I mean, people are openly saying that, right?
Yeah. Actually, it's not a bad idea. Anyway, I'm just about to. Now that is a great discussion. Right. Yeah. I am President Trump. Right. You are my broker.
Yeah.
Okay. You're my You're my oil broker.
Yes.
Okay. Mike, look, I'm a bit short of money at the moment. How could I maximise the oil price to my advantage in relation to the Straits of Hormuz?
Well, let me see, Mr. President. If you announce in the next hour that you are going to bomb the absolute hell out of Tehran, I think you'll find the oil price will go up. So here's what you do. Before you announce that, you buy a load of it at $75 a barrel, and by tomorrow, it'll have gone up to 100, and you can sell it.
Fine. Okay.
You don't have to bomb anyone.
Okay. Can I give you a contract for difference on that? And I'd like to bet $1 billion on it. And then you say to me, I think that's a bit obvious, Mr. President.
Right.
Well, how much? Well, of course it's obvious. It's making money.
Yeah. You do that thing that all the people that I used to know who were gambling addicts were doing, when they were told they could only visit one bookies and put one bet on. They just get all their mates to put bets on all around the country.
I do know people who do that for a living. Yeah.
And you know, because they don't want to give away too much about, you know, some guys just turned up with £1 million. You just scatter it about a bit. And he gives J.D. Vance a call and he goes, all right, mate, you know, come on.
Do you mean Scott Besson?
Yeah.
Hey, Scott.
Right.
Scott Donald here.
Listen, I need some help.
Look, we're all going to get our bums in the butter here. So just go long on oil. I'm just about to give that Khomeini pig. I'm going to give him such a bashing.
Well, you still hear, when you hear Nigel Farage speaking, he still talks like a trader. You know, he'll say things like, "I'm a buyer at 78 on that," you know, and people are going, "What does that mean?" I mean, if you know the parlance, that's how they talk to each other. You know, basically, I'm mine, yours, whatever. You know, I'm piking you, and all of that stuff. You know, my sister used to work in Wall Street, and she was like, you know. She used to ring me up when I was in Fleet Street, and she'd go, "Has John Major been shot?" I went, "No." She went, "Oh," because that was the rumour going around the market.
And then therefore everything was moving.
And because you have to, if it's a slow day, somebody makes up a story, the market moves.
So, okay, you're an ordinary person, and you're reading about a Nigel Farage making a lot of money. My wife was telling me last night that two painters, this story doesn't end in the way it sounds, by the way. Two painters at a house she has some interest in were saying what fantastic bloke Nigel Farage was. The only bloke that the only politician they know that they probably like to have a beer with.
Right.
And so he has a compelling interest. My fear, now that I hear that he's going to put his trotters up for the summer, which is very unusual because for Farage, was last year when everybody else was asleep or going on holidays, he was out there every day having a press conference.
Yeah.
This year, he has basically said, "I'm knackered. I'm going to put my feet up."
Yeah.
Okay. Are we watching the end of Nigel at Mark 1? And could he do the following? Could he quit? And then a year before the election,
come back again.
Yeah, when Trump collapses, when Reform collapses, does he then come back? I mean, have I gone mad on all this?
No, I don't think you have. I think, because only he will really know what he's going to do. But I think that there is this definite kind of narrative which is being peddled by what I would call, the mainstream politicians and the mainstream media, where they've tried killing him off in so many different ways. The best way they've now got is to make out that it's all over. And to say that, they didn't win in Makerfield, partially their own fault that they sort of set the bar high, that everyone thought they might win in Makerfield. But they were never going to beat Burnham, at the end of the day. In the same way that I'm going to say now, I don't think they'll win the Manchester mayoral election because the Labour vote there is huge, massive.
Well, 40% of Manchester, of Greater Manchester, has a poverty problem. So.
But if they don't win that, for example, like they knew they wouldn't win Gorton and Denton, which is why I think they put Matt Goodwin in, because he was never going to win.
Matt Goodwin, by the way, seems to have put on some reverse cycle clips. I.e., he seems to be going backwards, right? So but do you remember he was everywhere?
Yeah.
And then and then he wanders around the north and says, "Oh, this is rather northern.
Yeah, right.
I'm getting the hell
Well,
out."
the other thing is he got relentlessly sort of pursued again by the sort of the left because he wrote that book, and which they claimed was an AI produced book.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know if it was or not.
Yeah.
But I think the problem is people, they're not like you and I. You know, all your life people have been abusing you, shouting at you. Then you go down the road, here comes that hike. You know. And
It's true.
So with you,
I quite enjoyed it.
Yeah, I do. But the thing is, they're not used to all that. So when they suddenly get this relentless barrage of abuse from everywhere, they kind of retreat back into the house and go, "I don't fancy that very much," you know. Whereas I go, "Just bring it on, you know. Come on, give me some more of it."
In fact, you gave a hard time to somebody so bad that they refused to come on my show.
Oh, really?
I thought that was a bit
Brilliant.
That was a bit cruel.
Excellent.
Yeah, no, but I mean, yeah. By the way, he was a Tory, so he probably deserved it anyway.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, look, the thing is that there's no question that the more success that reform gets, the more problems they're going to have.
Yeah,
because then they're going to get more scrutiny, and there's going to be more problems with vetting, and they're going to have more candidates who are not quite as good as people thought they were, and all the rest of it. And Nigel Farage, I wouldn't say poor old Nigel Farage, very rich old Nigel Farage, they're just going to keep picking away at him until they find something that makes him weaker and maybe tries to make him go away and get out of politics. But I mean, I hope he doesn't, because that's not the way it
I don't
should
think
work.
he'll ever get out of politics. What he might do is, he likes his exits and entrances, right? And I just wonder whether he's got some idea of going off stage, exit left, and then popping up on exit right.
I mean, I wouldn't advise that. I don't think that would be a good, because he did it once, or maybe more than once.
Yeah,
but the last time he did it, it was a success.
Yeah.
I don't think he could get away with that again.
What, the return of the Messiah?
Yeah.
I'm not sure.
But this time, if he leaves in the middle of all of this, it will look as though he's been
scarpering over the 5 million.
Away. Yeah. And then he won't be coming back as the Messiah. He'll be coming back as somebody having another go.
Before I let you go, and I'm very grateful for you doing this, having flogged yourself to death, there is a narrative in which people are suggesting, well, the answer to the future is clearly Badenoch. I don't buy that.
No.
Not because I don't think she's doing a good job. I think there hasn't been enough of a mea culpa by the Tories.
No.
And because what they say now is it's all different now.
Yeah.
Well, round my way is an absolute dork of a of an MP called Ben Spencer. Sorry. And
is he a Lib Dem?
He should be. He should be. He's a Tory,
Yeah.
and he should go there. Right? Absolutely total waste of space. But that groupage is still prominent. The One Nation Tories, of which Gove. Now, I was told this about Gove. So the other night, there's a good show on GB News called Michel Dubry. It's the number one rated show, by a long way, by the way. Much bigger than Farage, everything. Like down to earth kind of lady.
Yeah, no, it's one of the ones I watch.
Okay, so she tells me, I didn't see it. So she's on there with Gove, and they're talking about this, that, and the other. And Dubry raises the point that saying, well, white Britons would probably not view or agree with that. At which point, Gove says, you have no right to say that. He took exception. He was basically saying that if somebody comes here, they can become British.
Yeah.
And Michelle was saying, no, if you washed up for some work in Japan, you wouldn't become Japanese, and you wouldn't become Chinese, and you wouldn't, by the way, even be allowed into Russia. He started battling against that. This is why the Conservatives remain unelectable. White British is a view in exactly the same as black British is or Asian British is.
Totally.
We are not a divided society. Well, actually, there's a lot of division, but we are a separate society, and we should just accept that. It's something that's been visited on us by Brown and Blair, and this last 30 years, we are different. But Gove, and on Gove saying that, I find it unacceptable that Gove is the editor of The Spectator.
Yeah, it's extraordinary, isn't it?
Well, I mean,
it's ridiculous.
I don't think he understands where the political right has gone to.
No,
it's
exactly.
left him behind.
Yeah. Well, Pooch and I were talking about this morning, that, there is a cohort of people in this country who think it's absolutely, completely fine that London has become this city which is unrecognisable, that it's completely full of foreign people from somewhere else, because that's all right.
Yeah.
Well, I don't think it is actually.
No.
You know, I think it was perfectly acceptable for us to be a capital city with people that would come here, you know, from all points around the world. But the numbers now are what makes the difference. It's the huge numbers of people who are not from here. And that if you're a white British in London, you're in a minority now.
That is true. Okay, one final question. Is it because of our age, where we have seen the transformation, that we feel threatened by it? And if you were in your probably 20s, actually, early 20s, this would be, well, this is what we are, and we're just going to have to get on with it.
Yeah, no, I think that's right. I think there's no question. I mean, certainly my kids would say that. You know? But yeah, I mean, I always make the comparison. When I went to live in New York in the 80s, New York was full of immigrants, but it was all people who wanted to be New Yorkers and they wanted to be American. And when they made money, they moved out to the suburbs and they bought a house and they hung an American flag outside. That's not what we've got.
Oh, no. In fact, if you have the flag outside...
In fact, you'd be prosecuted by the council.
But the council would ask you to take it down. And actually, your neighbour would say, I feel threatened by that flag. How you can be threatened by the national flag is beyond me. Anyway, okay, well, thank you very much indeed, Mike,
I have got some
that.
crypto, by the way, in case you want to know.
You have got some...
I have, but it's not doing very well. I bought it last year.
Yeah, go on.
Something called a meme coin.
Yes.
Which is sort of one of these new versions of crypto.
Yeah.
And I'm a bit like you, I don't really understand it. But I gave a guy a few grand, and so far I haven't had anything back. And it was meant to be, it was a creator coin or something like that. It was called, and it was meant to be tied in with the release of a movie, and you know, it was meant to be this whole sort of multimedia experience, but nothing's ever happened. In fact, I must get hold of him.
Well, how much did you put in?
About 10 grand.
Right, okay, here we go. Big investigation. The big investigation is how come Mike Graham has got 10 grand? That's the...
Well, that was when I was getting overpaid.
Have you ever thought of fronting a gold dealer at $22,500 an hour?
I would do it.
I would do it.
Absolutely.
At 22, I tell you what, I do it for less than that. I do it currently, having seen how much I made out YouTube, I think I do it for £22.50 an hour.
Yeah, I think that would be...
In fact, I tell you what, I could do...
the rate you're getting now, wouldn't it?
It would. I worked it out with Pooch. I said, with this audience, tell your mates to watch it, will you? Because I get paid per 1,000 views, right? And there's things... Right, I travel up from Weybridge every day. I have to park my car for the day because otherwise I get nicked and that costs me 50 quid or something, right? And then I buy a pie, right? I might have a cup of coffee. I've just worked out, I've done 6 shows and I've lost £22.80, right? By the way, although that's not true to the penny, it's not far off. Old Pooch over there, meanwhile, has now bought yet another house in France.
Yeah, and another Tesla.
Right. Another Tesla, yeah. Everything's going rather well. He started a garlic farm, by the way. He started it in Hackney. And he said he's doing rather well. The only thing is, the only money he's made out of it is buy a beret. And no, Pooch is doing fine. Don't worry about him. Me, I'm struggling. Okay, so I'm starting Untruth Social. It's going to be based on my time as the editor of The Sun. So, and it's going to cost you £5 a month. Okay, Mike. Okay, Mike, thank you very much indeed. Now, we have somebody with some brains coming in, Mike.
Oh, good. That's unusual for this place.
Hit the news quickly.
Yeah, okay, go to the news. There's not much interesting news about. You heard more interesting news from there. I think we might talk about how many members of one family can dominate the 3 big offices of state. Because it's now being suggested that they've dug up David Miliband. Now, you can't remember old Miliband. You can't remember old Miliband, but he's been running a charity in New York. He's been paid about $400,000 or $500,000 a year. And the suggestion is he might be coming back as foreign secretary. The problem is that he might also have his brother may be chancellor, in which case they said, there's a good line in the Times which says that there would be more Milibands in the big offices of state than there were women. He said that's unacceptable. In a minute, my new friend, Austin. Good to see you, Austin. And Austin, I think among the many things he does for a living is, I think you're an architect as well, aren't you?
I am, I'm afraid, yeah.
Yeah, well, no, you needn't be afraid of it. You'll be the first person with any intellect and allied to mathematics that has ever sat in that chair, I'll be honest with you, unless it's all done by AI, which I suspect, which is what's causing everybody to be out of work in your game. Right, after we're going to say hello to Austin Williams, and we're coming up with the news. It doesn't seem very interesting, so don't hang around.
Good morning, I'm Edward Hughes Starmers, finally shuffling off after his defence master plan, slapping on £15 billion for drones, hypersonics, and a fancy hybrid navy, while quietly carving out a £5 billion black hole for whoever follows. Brilliant timing, mate. The knob of the North's basically measuring the curtains for number 10, though he'll apparently keep popping back to Manchester, like it's a long commute, promising radical devolution and fixing our broken politics. King Charles has sensibly decided the freshly refurbished Buckingham Palace isn't for living in. Smart man. Why rattle around in a £370 million money pit when you can dodge the drama? England are smashing it at the World Cup. Fans behaving excellently abroad, naturally. While at home, we're still rowing about NHS maternity reports, migrant rules, and whether ditching maths tests for diversity was peak civil service genius. Laters, tigers.
Okay. So the old cartoon news guy, he's wearing the Congo shirt. Actually, do you know? I don't know why I should say that. It must be from my kind of always wanted to tip over the barrel kind of personality, which has caused me the most immense trouble in my life. I must be honest with you. I just wonder if we got beaten by the Congo, right? What on earth? How on earth Tuchel is going to deal with this, or we're going to deal with this as a nation? I mean, the first thing that happens is that Tuchel's backside would not touch the sides, would it? He'd be kicked out about 200 miles an hour. Anyway, let's hope that doesn't happen. I don't mind being kicked out by Mexico. If we're kicked out by the Congo, that's a new problem. My guest, Austin Williams. Now, Austin, would you like to tell the viewer, because that's what it's boiled down. We are now, as I've often said, we turned television into a one-to-one.
Nice.
Right, we've turned it into what was the old telephone.
Yeah,
right?
good. Yeah.
We find somebody who watches it, then we talk individually to them, and then we send them a check. Or we send them cash, actually. Austin, your background, so that the viewers know.
Well, I'm from Wales originally, so therefore I have no interest in the English football team.
Yeah.
But no, I'm an architect, so I've been an architect for an awful long time, practicing architect, and now I teach architecture in Kingston School of Art. And surprise, surprise, tomorrow morning is the result of the RIBA, Royal Institute of British Architects, presidential election, where I stood as a candidate.
And who were you standing against? Many?
I was standing against three other people. One, an eco-architect.
Yeah, eco,
Blue. One, a Labour councillor.
God.
Three, an EDI expert, a consultant. Equality, diversity and inclusion, all that kind of malarkey.
Okay.
So basically the three things which I want to stand against. So my whole point was, A, I'm not going to win, so please...
You know that, do you?
Well, fairly sure. The dominant narrative, as we say in education, the dominant narrative is environment, and much to my chagrin. So I think that's going to be the winner. So I think if anybody's out there voted for me, don't hold your breath. So, but I hope to get more than Camp Binface in the general.
Okay, tell me about the Labour councillor. Is the Labour councillor an architect?
Labour councillor. Well, she stood. She stood.
stood.
I don't want to diss her too much, but she stood in the general election, didn't win, and then she stood
as the
Labour
candidate.
Labour candidate, yeah. And then she stood in the last by-election in Lewisham as a Labour candidate and didn't win to the Greens. So not winning as a Labour candidate in Lewisham takes some doing. So
I know Lewisham well.
Yeah.
I used to cover it as a local paper.
Yeah. So I'm hoping that I won't come last. That's my ambition.
Okay.
But
and what made you want to stand anyway?
Well, I saw that three candidates whose political perspective I despise were standing, and I thought this really can't be allowed to stand. It's a little. I mean, I don't want to count myself as a reform candidate, but it was more that similar attitude you see in the country today, which is that people have had enough. I've had enough,
right.
And I'm fed up with the way that the industry's going, the housing industry, the housing provision, and more broadly, politics more broadly. So I thought I better put my head above the parapet, do something now, otherwise I'll regret it.
Okay, now one of my best mates of all time, an architect. Okay, we had loads of fun together, but separately we were politically off the planet.
Yeah.
I suspect that can't happen today. I fear that friendships are divided by politics now in a way which previously you just let them go, you know?
Well, you say that. I mean, that's why this EDI thing, equity, diversity, inclusion.
Yeah.
You know, we can celebrate diversity as long as you're the right diverse grouping. You can be inclusive as long as you say the right thing.
Yeah.
So there's this kind of compelled speech. So for me, environmentalism in architecture is everywhere, right? I teach architecture. If I have to see another rammed earth, bamboo, straw bale house, right, I'll scream. And that's all anybody gets taught these days. So I think that there's a wider conversation to be had. And a lot of
Are you saying, but surely developers aren't doing that?
No.
They're still sticking bricks in,
Well, obviously developers aren't building anything either. That's part of the problem.
That is true. Well, actually, a mate of mine is a developer. He says it's an absolute nightmare. He says that the planning officers are treated like dog's dirt, right? By the councillors, right, who have some political dimension to an estate or something like that. He said it is nightmarish trying to get houses built in this country, and actually right now, he's had a good run, by the way. Okay. He's had a good run. That run has come to a grinding halt.
Okay. Well, I mean, it's a bit like, there's not many poor developers, but at the same time, I understand that they're having a tough time because the whole industry is becoming overregulated. Whether it's planning policy, so there's hundreds and thousands of pages of legislation you have to plough through in order to get a house built. Yeah. But the thing which I was mentioning to you before, in terms of the heat wave that we're now going through,
right?
I remember 1976, right, which was just, I think, 0.2 degrees slightly less hot than it is today, but lasted for 2 months. So we're now scared out of our own wits. But in today's discussions, from next year, every home new home, is not allowed to have a gas boiler, has to have a heat pump, must have triple glazing.
I didn't know.
And more to the point, every house has to have 40% of its ground floor on the roof as solar panels. This is mandated. So this is going to be an extra 20 grand to developers, and whatever they then charge to a buyer. This is really going to scupper the market rather than increase.
Okay, well, let me ask you about that, right? I totally buy this. So I would have thought that actually putting solar panels on the top of your house makes perfect sense. All right. Look, you're not going to get it back. I do accept that. I do accept the basis that over the duration of that thing, it's going to be nip and tuck.
25-year payback,
is it really 25 years?
25.
Well, even now with batteries, the ability to take the good days. Okay. Well, I tell you what, you wouldn't make a great double glazing, great solar panel salesman. Because the way it was sold to me was it was a 15-year payback, and you're saying it's a 25-year payback. Right. One of my neighbours, right, I can't say I care for him very much. He said one of the great joys of his life.
He's watching now, Kelvin.
Yeah, no, he won't be. There isn't anybody watching this. This is one of the problems. If you could just watch it, YouTube only pay you between £9 and £11 per 1,000. Have you got some mates? Get them crowded round. It'd be helpful.
Numbers are good, Kelvin.
The numbers are good. Anyway, he says that one of the things he enjoys is actually watching the electricity being generated and then disappearing off to an electric company. He said, mind you, he's a dull old spud. So can I ask your point? Your point is about the heat, that we actually have been building houses in order to keep the heat in, and now we're trying to find ways of actually doing the opposite.
Yeah, I stayed for about 6 months in an eco flat in Hackney.
Why did you do that?
My house had burned down, and I was given an insurance flat, and this was it.
Oh, right. Whereabouts do you live then, Austin?
Wood Green.
Oh, right.
Wood Green, North London.
You recognise your house, Ken, the embers of it.
Yeah, it's a mansion. No, it was an ex-council stock. We're not even supposed to talk about that anymore. We're not supposed to buy council stock anymore, are we? We've got to give it.
Yeah, that is correct. Good point, man.
But in the good old days when you could buy it, and the entire thing burned down. It's the biggest fire in Haringey's history since the war, apparently, but didn't get a mention. Came about a year and a half after Grenfell. But after that, so I got an insurance flat. So I stayed in this eco house. I mean, I cannot tell you. And I moved in about February. It was sweltering. I mean, the insulation must have been about this much. Triple glazing. It was unbearable. So I can only imagine in today's heat what that would be like now. Just I can't even.
Okay, so
it.
I was in. Now this is boring. So do switch off, please. Don't even think about it. Just turn the thing off. I'm not interested in this anecdote. I was in John Lewis yesterday, right, in Oxford Street, on the top floor. The lady told me that last week, right, literally the staff had to go and, this is not what normally happens in the stockroom, right, had to go and huddle in the stockroom in order to survive, right? It was off the coast. So what are we going to do now? Supposing there is some kind of heat thing which is now going to last for God knows how long. Yeah. Are we going to be allowed to buy? Are we going to put in? Is the pressure going to be to do the reverse to what we're doing right now?
Yeah, it's madness. I mean, it's been a week at best, right?
Yeah.
It's been hot. It's been horrible. I haven't enjoyed it. But suddenly, within 2 days, people were talking about air conditioning as the answer, and you thought, hang on. Didn't air conditioning used to be part of the problem? Hugely energy inefficient, massively expensive and all this stuff. Suddenly, everybody's now buying into it. They're made in China, by the way, as our solar panels, as our wind turbines.
That is true. I did know that.
So 80% of wind turbines come from China. 60% of solar panels come from China.
Why can't we make this stuff? Is it because the cost base of our employment is so high?
Yeah. Well, there's part of that, and it's also the fact that we've got solar panels are not exactly technologically advancing every year on year. I mean, a solar panel is a bog standard thing, yeah? Sun hits it, get some hot water or some electricity. The Chinese can stole that technology a long time ago and have just got a manufacturing base like nothing else. It's all state-sponsored, massive investment, and they've stolen the market. That was it. Partly because the West, it's been a very interesting kind of turnaround. We in the West have been banging on about environmentalism as a kind of moral campaign to slag off China for the last 25, 30 years, right? So saying, how dare you, here we are morally supreme, we're interested in cutting our energy, and you're still using gas-fired power stations and coal mines, right? How dare you? So what China's done is says, thank you very much for the advice. We're now going to close down a lot of coal mines, or actually keep a lot of them still open, but we're going to invest massively in solar panels that you now can't refuse to buy because you just told us how morally important it is. So Germany's solar panel manufacturers have gone out of business because China's undercut it.
It's a good point you raise about Germany, who are now sitting there basically saying, oh, well, we're laughing. This is them 5 years ago. Audi, VW, Mercedes, BMW, we own motor manufacturing. Hello? Have you seen the latest numbers? No. 15% of the market has just gone to Chinese cars, which are being undercut in price through dumping, effectively. And actually, how are VW doing? You're doing what? You've just laid off 100,000. We've only got a workforce of 600,000 globally. You're going to lay off some more. Mercedes, you're a seller of that? And well, that's useful, isn't it?
That's the CEO of VW.
Yeah, that's right. He said it's 120,000. Yeah. So they are now saying that the renminbi, is it? Yeah. The Chinese currency is undervalued by 30%, which is a bloody laugh, really, because the reason the Germans went into the EU is because the mark was overvalued, and because there were a load of skint countries like the whole of Eastern Europe and France and everything, the euro then collapsed, and therefore they become more valuable. So we are all being affected in different ways.
Yeah. I mean, China's economy is not doing very well either, to be frank, right? But it's like 4.5%, 5% GDP growth, which we dream about. Yeah.
I totally get that, man.
But it was 10 years ago. You know what I mean?
So can I ask you this? In my house, we're dealing with the air conditioning issue. Mm-hmm. Should we just go out and buy air conditioning units? Because they're expensive. And of course, in the end of the day, there's going to be a load of people. You can hear them now, can't you, saying, I need air conditioning on the state, not only to buy the capital cost of it, I want to buy, actually to run it is expensive. Absolutely. And therefore you, right, Labour government, Tory government, Reform government, are going to fund it. Is that right?
Yeah. plus it's run by electricity, and electricity is produced by wind turbines if you're lucky, but generally with the backup of the gas industry.
Are we all going to need air conditioning? We got a very hot week coming up. I mean, I looked at it just now. It looks like it's 30 degrees for the next, as of Friday, for a week. Is that right?
I think just like now, you should just take your trousers off. I mean, cool down that way.
Yeah, look, I'm trying to put on viewers at the moment. I think if I took my trousers off, actually, I may be reduced to that kind of thing.
Maybe at the moment. But no, I mean, I think that, look, I kind of think it's overhyped. I watched a TV the other day where they were showing a nursery school in the Midlands, and it was 9-year-old kids, and they're all sitting around, maybe wearing shirts instead of their jumpers. Yeah. But under the table, they all had their bare feet in trays of water. Yeah. Right now, what on earth is going on? Right? I mean, there were that was after 3 days of hot weather. And you think this is a national emergency? First of all, I remember where I was in school, verrucas were the biggest problem facing children.
Austin, I don't know you well. But when you were in school, right, it's really basic.
Swimming pool.
Yeah, it was. We had the polio. And also the Antiques Roadshow was not even an idea.
It was a roadshow in those days, wasn't it? Yeah. Yeah. No. Look, all I'm trying to say is that I think that there's a sense now that the mildest inconvenience now gives rise to people complaining, taking time off, working from home, not going to work. There's every excuse under the sun, literally, is going to now put forward as a reason why maybe we should take some time off and cool down, and it's an excuse to demand from your employer recompense. Yeah, that I think is a real problem. There's very little grit and determination anymore, and I think putting up with hot weather might be uncomfortable, but get on with it. I personally, right? So, but in terms of individuals, I agree with you. If you want to buy a air conditioning unit for your house, why would I mind, right? It's the same as if you want to have a solar panel on your roof. It's neither here nor there to me. My problem is that when that becomes a national discussion and says that instead of providing a national grid, which is one of the greatest inventions in British history, right? Every home will have electricity supplied from a centralized position, so nobody goes without. Now you're saying everybody has to survive on their own with their own solar panel. So if somebody else's solar panel breaks, you can say, I'm all right, Jack, I've got my own power. Whereas,
Well, that sounds like me, that person, right? I am in the I'm all right, Jack. Okay. So, in fact, I read, I think only yesterday, that the cost of effectively repiping the electricity transfer is literally off the dial. It's like 80, 90 billion. We are in this country not creating wealth, it's a terrible thing. Yeah. I want people to be wealthy. I don't care. I don't give a damn who you are. I don't care that train drivers are making 80, 90,000 a year for going on the straight rail, right? I don't care about that. I do care that actually we ordinary people, not only ordinary people, other people. I've just seen a wealth report saying that we have suffered more in going down the wealth league than virtually any other nation over the last 10 years when they look at the rich list. Of course, there'll be a load of lefties here, be absolutely delighted. What can we do, Austin? You are worried like I am, and I suspect like anybody with any brains. What can we do to our nation to make them believe that actually working hard and perhaps doing 6 days a week instead of working out how to go do a work-life balance and all this kind of tosh, right? What can we do to encourage people to believe that is the future?
Yeah, but I'm not very good on policy. But I am more interested in the fact that this is a kind of a political conversation. Yeah. It's a bit like, the government say they want growth. What they mean is they want more taxation off the existing pot. The idea that you would grow the economy is anathema, right? But it's anathema to the Tory party as well, as it happens over the last 10 years.
It is, yeah.
So there's that idea.
But I don't hear Reform talking about that either. I hear them talking about cutting welfare. I'm in favour of it and all the rest of it. Yeah. I don't hear them saying, right, we are literally doing X, Y, and Z, and we're going to let the market explode or whatever. Can any political party allow us to explode? I don't know.
Well, I mean, we're going down the tubes. Whether that's the same as exploding, I don't know. But I mean, I think that look, I'm not here to speak for Reform, but I do think that they are having those conversations at last, right? It's almost like, were there to be a general election tomorrow because Andy Burnham's getting in by the back door and that we want to have a democratic election, then reform would panic because they're not ready. Yes,
Yeah.
I think maybe in 2 years' time they may be a little bit more ready. I don't necessarily think they might win, but they'll be pretty well prepared because they're having these conversations about policy initiatives and all the rest of it. But I do think that the intellectual discussion, we started off by talking about EDI, equality, diversity, inclusion, this kind of thing, which if you go to any public sector body, they are stuffed with it, right? It's that idea about in the university sector where I teach. It's all about, are we getting the right people to come to the university? I don't know if you saw in the Times, I think today or yesterday, Oxford University has got diversity standards which does not then include
white people,
young white working class people. Yeah, not that I think white working class people should be given priority, by the way.
Right,
but they shouldn't be left at the bottom.
Right. Well, actually, in relation to that, I tweeted only because I read it in the Times, I think, although it was a Spectator story, that the Treasury, right, has scrapped numerical reasoning tests. Yeah. And could I urge you to go on Google and try and do them? They are damn difficult. Mind you, I'm challenged, right? 17 attempts, 1 GCSE. It's not easy to be as stupid as me, right? So because it was stopping minority candidates getting through. And I think a Labour MP said ethnicity is now more important than numeracy in the Treasury. That was a Labour MP said that. So, to your point,
in the Treasury,
in the Treasury.
What does the Treasury do?
It
works out what our budgets are by adding things up. So I think a numeracy or a mathematics test might be something more important. But that idea that in order to be inclusive, you therefore dumb down the actual test in the first place, and to be equal, you exclude. Or to be inclusive or to be diverse, you exclude those very people.
Mind you lived in Hackney for 6 months.
I did.
That must have been an eye-opener, wasn't it? Because I often wonder what this is like. Were you a minority being white, and can I just say, slightly on the other side of old, right? And did you find that a challenge? Or was it quite enjoyable? Or did you enjoy the mixture?
Yeah, Look, I come from South Wales, right?
Whereabouts?
One of the Rhondda valleys,
right?
And it was for me, coming to London was an escape. Yes, moving away from net curtain twitching and everybody knowing your business to being, an individual who has privacy, and individuality. And so I like all that, and I use the term loosely. Don't quote me. I like the multicultural level of London. I don't like multiculturalism. I like multicultural. So that the fact you can see many nations in one space. But of course, I was, as I say, living in an equal flat with the bourgeois classes rather than kind of in the more dodgy ends of Hackney. But I like London. Yeah, I'm sure you probably do as well on your weaker moments. Yeah. So I think that there's something good about it. The fact.
Okay, if you were, so you take architecture though.
Yeah.
Isn't the situation that unfortunately or fortunately, AI is going to literally devastate your profession?
Well, my point on this is there's two things, right? One is that when AI started, there was this whole conversation about how it was going to take shop workers' jobs or all the kind of packaging jobs, the robots be doing it. And judges and architects and lawyers said, we're safe because we've got judgment. And of course, now that's where AI is making a real mark. They have now judgment in some respects. So architects are being affected. But in some ways, at the moment, it's fairly menial stuff. It's templates, it's letters, it's this, that, and the other, but there is one architect, I don't know if you know Zaha Hadid architects, very famous architects. They're doing it big style. So they do competitions where they normally you go to a big client and they say, there's going to be 10 architects, you've got to compete for the job. And they show a project and they get chosen. He walks in, the guy from Zaha, and he says, look, why have you got 10 guys, right? He says, I'm here, I can press a button, I can get you 1 million images in a heartbeat, right? And you're just asking for 10, right? Anyway, that's how he wins the gigs, right? So it's so for him, AI is a liberation, gives them opportunities to really explore different designs, and then it's just a matter of choice, what you like. right? So, so there's positives and negatives to this, but I do think that the way we look at AI is almost a reflection about the way that we look on life. We see the future, if you're the environmental discourse, the future is somewhere we dread to go because we're all going to die in the floods, yeah, or the heat waves, or whatever it might be. So the future is a terrible place to be, whereas in my day, it used to be a good place to be.
Yeah. I'm with that, and everybody in this room is with that. Yeah. I agree. Tomorrow's an even better day, and the reason I say that is I think with you on, the only downside is the way I am now going to choose my guests is whether the audience goes up or down. Because if it goes down, and I'm getting paid right, literally by the size of the audience, then I am clearly going to have ladies with attractive figures rather than people with attractive intellects, and that's you, Austin. Right. Very nice to see you. Anyway, Austin, got to go. But we will spend more time next time. And and the other thing I'd like to be able to do, because it doesn't make any odds to me, is if you want to come in and have a view about something, just say you're on the line or something, you can come in there, we get you straight in. So there will be issues, especially about DEI, which we need some kind of balance. We want somebody even more extreme than me on the issue, right? And then we know where to go to. Austin, very nice to meet you, man. Okay, cheers. Right, what should we do now, Pooch? Go to the news or?
Quick go to the news.
Okay.
Mohammed coming up.
Okay, Mohammed is going to talk about...
Been waiting patiently.
Okay, has he? Oh, I'm very sorry. Okay, yeah, I'm going to Edward Hughes, I think.
Good morning, I'm Edward Hughes Starmer's finally shuffling off after his defence master plan, slapping on £15 billion for drones, hypersonics, and a fancy hybrid navy, while quietly carving out a £5 billion black hole for whoever follows. Brilliant timing, mate. The knob of the North's basically measuring the curtains for number 10, though he'll apparently keep popping back to Manchester, like it's a long commute, promising radical devolution and fixing our broken politics. King Charles has sensibly decided the freshly refurbished Buckingham Palace isn't for living in. Smart man. Why rattle around in a £370 million money pit when you can dodge the drama? England are smashing it at the World Cup. Fans behaving excellently abroad, naturally. While at home, we're still rowing about NHS maternity reports, migrant rules, and whether ditching maths tests for diversity was peak civil service genius. Laters, tigers.
Yeah, hi there, Kelvin MacKenzie here. We're going to start putting up the audience number, the live audience number on there. It won't be very large, and it'll have two effects. One, you'll be able to see whether it's going up or down. And secondly, you will actually be able to work out, if I give you the numbers, how much I am making or not making. And if somebody comes on and the audience goes down, my pay's going down. Well, I'd be mad to keep them on, wouldn't I? So that'd be very funny. They come on, the audience goes down, immediately we get rid of them. Anyway, that is another innovative idea brought to you by UK Live, which is how people get thrown off air if they're not working. Anyway, but more importantly, coming up right now is Mohammed Ahmed. Actually, I think he's MBE, is he? Mohammed, morning.
Good morning, Kelvin. Good morning,
How are you,
Kelvin.
sir?
Yes.
How are you?
Yes, I do have an MBA.
Oh, right. Well done. Can I ask you, Mohammed, since we never met each other before, what did you get the MBE for?
In my role as co-chair of the Muslim Jewish Forum of Greater Manchester for services to community cohesion and interfaith relations in Greater Manchester. It was in the Queen's Birthday Honours List of 2016.
Oh, right. Well, congratulations. And by the way, a good effort there to try and find peace where there is nothing but, at the very minimum, irritability, and sometimes there's worse than that. So we talked today. I was struck by a case that came out of Heathrow where a Muslim lady was told not to wear, I think you probably know the detail better than me, but a Palestine flag on her lapel. And one thing led to another, and she ended up taking the company, Heathrow, to an employment tribunal. And I was puzzled, why would she do that? Who on earth would fund such an action, right? I presume she hasn't got a lot of money. I don't know how much employment tribunals cost. But is it right? And she said, it's part of me. It's part of my religion. This is who I am. Actually, I would have thought, well, actually, she is Muslim, but actually she's British. If she wants to wear a British flag, I quite understand that. But by wearing a Palestinian flag, that's kind of a political statement. Mohammed, your view.
Well, let's take it bit by bit. I understand from reading the story in the Daily Mail that this lady at work was wearing a Palestinian flag, one of these round pins, either pinned onto her lanyard or pinned onto her clothes. I can't remember the exact details. But the key thing is that this was at work. And she was told not to wear it because it's a political thing. And she objected. She eventually took the case to an employment tribunal. I've never been to an employment tribunal, but I understand that they're not very expensive. They're designed not to make it prohibitively expensive for employees to go to the tribunals. So I don't know whether she got a lawyer acting for free or whether she did it herself. And she was comprehensively ruled against because at work, and for all of my career, I was involved in professional accounting firms. At work, you do not have the right to wear anything that you want. I remember being told off for wearing my ballpoint pen on the outside of my jacket rather than the inside because it looked unprofessional. You have to dress as the firm wants. You're not free to make political statements at work the way you are in your private life, which is why she lost the case comprehensively.
And right, in your community, I'm talking about in the kind of Muslim community, would your view be the one that dominates, or would there be like a 50-50 on it?
Well, not everybody who's a British Muslim is an expert on employment law or on the law of free speech or anything else. Those who understand the law, by definition, I think would think the same way that I do. Other people, their first reaction would be, this is unfair. Do they apply the same rules to everybody else? And of course, employers do need to apply the same rules consistently. Correct. So somebody next to her who's wearing a pro-Israeli flag equally should not be allowed to wear an Israeli flag. That wasn't mentioned in the newspaper report, didn't come up. But as long as the rules are applied equally, employers quite clearly have the right to decide how their employees dress, subject to religious requirements. So no employer is entitled to say to a woman, you cannot wear a hijab at work, for example. But a political symbol, whether it's the flag of a foreign country or some other political symbol like climate emergency must be dealt with now, clearly is something that the employer is entitled to take a view on.
In your wider role, and the role that got you the MBE, the kind of trying to become a kind of interfaith actually, sort of friendship group between Muslims and Jews. You come from the Manchester area, where of course that friendship that may have existed actually was damaged following the murder of 2 Jews in your area. Did your interfaith group then collapse?
Nope. We have been going for 21 years, and we've struggled. We've had times, especially in the early days, when there was conflict in the Middle East, it would affect our attendance at events in the UK. One of the things I'm really gratified is that as time has passed on, foreign events haven't affected our attendances in the UK. For example, after the Hamas attack on Israel on the 7th of October 2023, I was concerned about what that might mean for attendance at our next event, which was going to be about 6 weeks later. I was really gratified that 6 weeks later, when we held that event, which was an event to talk about British law, the attendance of Muslims, Jews, Christians, humanists, etc., was basically unchanged from what it would have been the year before. So
I'm puzzled by that. So are you right? You've extended it into Christians and the like. Are you saying that the number of Jews that turned up was exactly the same as pre the attack?
Yes, I mean you can't measure. We don't count, head by head, but we know what our attendances are like. We know what our attendances were like the year before that. and basically there was no change. It was really gratifying.
Yes, I'm astonished by it. So how do you see the relationships between the two communities right now? I would have thought the best that could be described them is strained, and I would have thought in some areas would just be outright hostile.
The relations vary. You can find Muslims who are very anti-Jewish. You can find Jews who are very anti-Muslim. And there's a very large group of people, I would say the people in the middle, who understand that however we might feel about what's happening in Israel and Palestine, that we live in one country as Muslims and Jews. We face pressures, particularly from atheists in this country, that impact on both of us. So every so often you get MPs and politicians wanting to ban halal food and wanting to ban kosher slaughter as well. The Greens apparently are going to be debating a motion about whether or not to ban circumcision, which would be of a major concern both to Muslims and to Jews. We have so many issues that we face together in this society where we're much stronger if we face them side by side, rather than arguing about things overseas that neither of us can influence. I can't change what Hamas does in Gaza. I detest Hamas, and likewise, British Jews, frankly, cannot change the policies of the Israeli government.
Yes, I do get that. I do get that. How long have you been connected with your kind of friend? I call it a friendship group.
We were set up in June of 2005. We're a company limited by guarantee. If you Google our name, you will find us. Our website is muslimjewish.org.uk. And the reason we've been going successfully for so long is from the very beginning, we are focused on Greater Manchester. The name says what we do. We never get involved in issues to do with what's happening overseas.
So you've seen the rise of Burnham, right? And were you pleased when he was elected, or did you think actually, he would just be another politician telling whoppers for votes?
Well, before I answer that question, your viewers need to know where I'm coming from. For 36 years, I was a member of the Conservative Party from 1983 to the day that Boris Johnson became the party leader. And since October 2019, I've been a member of the Liberal Democrats.
Oh, right.
So that's where I'm starting from. I've met Andy Burnham on a number of occasions. First of all, he was elected mayor in May of 2017. And 2 weeks after he was elected as mayor, there was an awful terrorist attack in Manchester, at the Manchester Arena, where 22 people were killed by a suicide bomber who was clearly motivated by extremist Islamist views. Mm-hmm. 2 weeks after that was our iftar. We run an open iftar for Muslims, Jews, anybody else who wants to come along to the iftar, and he was our principal guest at that iftar and spoke very well. And while he was there, he invited me and my Jewish co-chair, Councillor Heather Fletcher, to meet with him in a sort of private meeting to discuss community cohesion ideas for Greater Manchester. And that meeting took place a couple of months later. It took time to schedule, but in August of that year, he gave us, it was originally supposed to be an hour, he gave us an hour and a half of his time with about 4 members of his team and him to talk about community cohesion. And he's an excellent listener. And I bumped into him occasionally at functions since then, but nothing like us at that long meeting. Speaking as a citizen and as a Liberal Democrat, speaking as a citizen, because I'm not speaking for the Liberal Democratic Party in any way, I'm just a member. I was very disappointed by the Keir Starmer government over the last 2 years. I'm glad that he's gone, and I think Andy Burnham will do a better job. For a start, he's a much better communicator. He can react on his feet. When Kenny Badenoch attacked him about his black T-shirt, he made a 5-second video pointing out it was dark blue and winking his eyelashes at her. So he's got the ability to react and think in a way that Keir Starmer clearly didn't.
I definitely think that humour and quick-wittedness will be the lasting impressions of politicians in a digital age, and I'm afraid that being a lawyer is not a good idea in today's world because of politics. Because a lawyer will take any cab off the rank, and I think you have to believe in something, and I think a bit of humour makes it go a long way. Look, Mohammed, it's very nice to talk to you. Congratulations on trying to find friendship where I think actually I'd be astonished in Manchester. If I was a Manchester, either Manchester Jew or actually anybody living in Manchester following the Manchester Arena thing, I would be feeling enormously hostile towards the community in which people seem to prosper in it. So I congratulate you for trying to find peace where actually I suspect a lot of people feel nothing but anger, but well done to you and Mohammed. All right, thank you very much indeed.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yes, I mean, you're having an interfaith group. Everybody, the Jew and the Muslim, are trying to get along, and then 2 Jews died, and then an Islamist does this, that, and the other. In our country, it's never the Jew that is trying to blow you up. I just want you to know that. That's my considered view about that. So I think we've got coming up now actually a rather good guy called Colonel Bob Stewart. I've known Bob off and on now for about 3,000 years. You're looking what can only be described as relaxed there, Bob. Where are you?
I'm at home in Beckenham, and I'm retired and enjoying life and just watching politics and the military. Slightly askance, to be honest, Kelvin.
Right.
I mean, I can't believe the state we've got ourselves into, both as a country and on defence. But I'm no longer a politician.
How did you enjoy it? If you come from a background where orders are orders, and actually then you find yourself in an environment where orders are to be discussed before being advanced. How did you find dealing with that?
I did it my own way anyway.
But you didn't do that when you were in the army, though, did you?
I did actually.
Did you?
I did. I mean, my father, when I went to Sandhurst, he was a decorated RAF officer.
Right.
He said to me, Robert, remember this: the Queen gets diarrhea. I'd always look downwards before you look upwards. And what he was essentially saying was never be impressed by anyone just because of their rank or their position. And I'm like you aren't either, and I'm not. And always care about the people for whom you have responsibility as your first priority before looking after yourself. I hope I did that. I feel I did. And so, my father's gone, of course, but I hope I did him proud there.
All right, well, that's a nice thing to say. So we move on to the politics of where we are today. Watching us not able really to fill the bucket up is an embarrassment, isn't it? I mean, it's a danger, but it's also an embarrassment. What is it about our country? And I blame the period of time that you were in office, to be honest. Cameron and co. hated the military, didn't understand it, and actually pared it right back. And it sits uneasily with me watching ex-Conservative politicians, actually ministers, saying X, Y, and Z, saying, "Oh, isn't it disgusting?" and all the rest of it. Tell me this.
Well, I take your point entirely. I mean, throughout my period, which was 14 years in Parliament, I consistently argued from the backbenchers that we didn't pay enough money for defence. I mean, I always, when I was on the Defence Committee, and after that, I always argued that we required to spend more on defence. You see, Kelvin, 3 of my family are actually serving at this moment, and so I've got.
Where are they serving? Where are they serving, Bob?
Well, one is in Cyprus, flying typhoons. Okay. One is in Lossiemouth doing something, and my son's in the Royal Marines, and he's not allowed to say where he is most of the time.
Okay, that's fine. And so you're totally committed to, right, both through your family and everything, but actually more importantly, why is it that we seem to be always be able to find money for some obscure kind of benefit, and yet we these days it's a matter of cutbacks in our country in all, for roads not being built or something not going to happen, right, in order to do the most minimal of defense these days. And why is it that we appear to have got on the wrong side of the technologies? We're now boasting about drones and the like. You could have looked out the window the last 4 years, or last 3 years anyway, and seen what other countries were able to defend. Actually, smaller countries are able to fight back in an incredible manner. I mean, Iran against the US, for instance, with drones, but actually more importantly, closer to us is Ukraine. Why are we suddenly producing all this at a time when you would have thought we could have just done it without any great phalanx,
Well, Kelvin, it's because most people haven't worried about defence. We've lived in a pretty soft and enjoyable society for a very long time.
Right.
We've never been under real threat. Those countries that are under real threat in NATO have substantially increased their defence spending. We haven't, and it doesn't look like we're going to either. I mean, speaking to not just my family, but I've still got very close ties with the army in particular. And what's actually happening on the ground, we're always talking about defence and 3.5%, 2.7%, but actually on the ground, the units aren't able to train. They haven't got the vehicles that they require to train, and they certainly haven't got the fuel or the ammunition. And so consequently, they're not up to speed. And our armed forces aren't good enough. I mean, I heard the case the other day of a Ukrainian soldier that said, we go over to the United Kingdom and we're trained by the army of the United Kingdom. But the woman who was in charge of our training looked like she still had her mother's milk round her lips. And it was appalling. And we thought, what the hell are we doing here? I think we're rather conceited to think that we've got armed forces that can train people like Ukraine. And we can't. They should be training us.
Do you know what? I so agree with that. I so agree with that. What's the point of coming here? We go there, watching a smaller nation. It's 1/4, 1/5 of the size of Russia, with all their manpower and all their, nuclear bluster. And actually, they fought them to a standstill. It may even be worse than that, actually. And so why don't we send our people over there and learn how we can manufacture our own drone? Why don't we start our own drones businesses? That's what... When Ukraine was denied the American armament, they said, right, we'll make it ourselves. However,
they have done.
Yeah.
They have done.
I'm very
it's not just them. Their soldiers are just superb. I met the Special Forces Brigade the other day,
right.
And they were just, I met them in London, they were visiting, and I was terribly, terribly impressed. Now, we've got incredibly good Special Forces, and they are still world beating. But the rest of the Army, the rest of the Navy, the rest of the Royal Air Force, when we can't even get a bloody ship out to Cyprus, in 3 weeks, what the hell's going on? It's just, we're in a parlous state. When you go down to Portsmouth or Plymouth and you look at all these ships with tarpaulins over them, they're actually sitting there doing nothing. When I go back to my old regiment, the complaint is we're sitting on our backside. We're not even, in order to keep soldiers motivated, they've got to do things. They can't go on training because they haven't got the money to do it. And they haven't got the resources. And it's right down at the bottom that worries me, as much as the sort of macro stuff about 3.5 of GNP and 2.7 of GNP. Right down at the bottom, those people on which we would rely, which is soldiers, regardless of anything else, and drones and electronic warfare and armor AI and all that stuff. I tell you what, you can't do. You can't protect people with bloody drones. In the end, you've got to have soldiers on the ground, boots on the ground, and we ain't got the boots. When I commanded my battalion, and that was 1992 to 1994, there were 525 soldiers in that battalion. When I joined that battalion in 1969, there were 750. It was still called a battalion, and politicians refer to, battalions and things like that, but the battalions have been hollowed out. They ain't got the power they used to have. And I tell you one thing, you do need soldiers, you do need airmen, you do need sailors, and they are getting increasingly rare.
Okay, let me ask two questions. Let me ask two questions in relation to that. One of the disappointments I felt on seeing the rough outline of this contribution towards defending our nation was that in order to pay for it, they're going to the military housing, right, is not going to be improved, right? They're simply going to save the money on that. Is it right? Is it right that there should be landlords are by law are forced to correctly make sure that houses are in good shape, etc. Right? Either through making sure that they can defy wind and rain and God knows what. Right? That's quite right. Right? Why aren't we saying that people who are supposed to be going out to fight for us, are prepared to give blood for our country, aren't living in decent circumstances with their families? I found that an impossible saving that, and surely is likely to drive more men and women out of the army than out of all forms of armed forces than ever. What right? And yet I haven't seen anybody take up saying, "Oh well, we should fight for these people. They're going to fight for us." What has happened to that contract?
When you are in the front line, and there are men and women in the front line, the one thing they require for their morale is that their families are okay back home. They don't wish to be worried by the fact that, the wife or the husband is living in poor conditions. It is absolutely part of the whole package. And if they're doing that, it is utterly wrong that we're cutting back on that. I mean, the fact of the matter is, welfare in this country costs us so much. I didn't hear one thing, not one bloody thing, about actually taking the money out of the welfare package or net zero or anything else like that. It is just unacceptable, because actually there's apparently some sort of 5 billion black hole in the 15 billion that's been allocated to defence that they can't find. Well, I can tell you where they can find it. Have a damn good look at how much is paid out in welfare and how much we encourage people to come to this country on rubber boats across the channel because they get such good conditions when they get here. I mean, that's what, but there was not one mention of that, not one. And I just thought, hell's teeth, what the heck's going on?
I tell you what, while we've been talking, there's some, and you get this all the time. It's a very strange aspect to our world that there are a number of people in the UK, not many, but they're pretty vociferous, who take the view that Ukraine is actually, that lies have been told, and that Ukraine is a terrible place, and that Russia is right, and invading there's nothing wrong with it, and it's always been part of Russia and all the rest of it. What causes people in our country to believe that? I've just seen a text up there saying that describing Ukraine as a Ponzi scheme, which has made Zelensky rich. Huh? And this one come up here: Ukraine isn't as cut and dried as the mainstream media have made people believe. Honestly, what is it about Ukraine that seems to cause so much discomfort?
Well, as they're watching this program, perhaps they ought to look at the facts of actually what's happening. I mean, firstly, Russia invaded Ukraine. and Ukraine put out a very gallant resistance. Secondly, Ukraine does actually have some approach to democracy rather like ours. We have a duty. This is a European country, and they want to be European. And I just don't get why people think that Russia, that clearly wants to subordinate Ukraine to Moscow, is actually they can support it in any way. I just don't get it. I mean, the Russian people are increasingly against the Ukraine war, increasingly, and yet these people, these may I say bastards running the Kremlin, are just plying on regardless and killing so many decent Russian people as well. The Russian soldiers are just like you or I, Kelvin.
Yeah.
If we were living there, some of these guys have been forced into uniform and they fight for the country as you would, as I would. I mean, it's just so tragic to see these young men and young women, mainly young men, of course, but young men and young women killed. And in the end, in the bloody end, it'll all be solved and there'll be some sort of treaty. And yet all these people will have gone on our side or the Ukrainian side and on the Russian side. All these young people will have gone. I just think war is such a tragedy sometimes, and I just don't get it. That's why so many military men actually are much averse to going to war, because they realize in the end there will be a political decision, political fix to it, and everyone will be happy and all the rest of it. There'll be great glory, but all these young people will have gone. And, you know, we have all these, I go every November, as perhaps you do, I suspect you do, because I know you, go and remember all the young men and young women that have been killed in war. And yet that's it. I mean, that is it. I mean, I just don't get it. I just don't get why we are not quicker on the politics, on sorting these things out. So we should not go to war if we can avoid it. I'm not CND. I'm not that. I realise we've sometimes got to pick up arms, but I want to actually stop killing people as soon as possible.
It's quite interesting. There's been a whole flood of texts come up as we've done it. I sometimes wonder whether there's a directional finder by kind of Russian spooks towards mainstream or debates like this, in which they actually flood the conversation with their putting their pro-Russian views, rather than actually those people don't really exist at all, and it's a very well-funded form of PR campaign on behalf of the Russian side. I just don't see so much of the Ukraine side coming forward. They kind of have to rely on people like you and I to make the argument, rather than there being a natural upswing towards everybody. I find that very odd.
Stop wondering about it, Kelvin. These bots, they've got huge numbers of people targeting this program who actually counter and send in these things. I think they're called bots, but
they are.
I remember. I mean, this is what they do. I mean, when I looked at it when I was an MP, I looked at actually the Chinese, and in Mongolia or somewhere like, not Mongolia, Manchuria, they had a whole division of the Chinese whose simple task was to penetrate through, to the UK, come onto the internet and actually interfere with things like electricity supplies, companies, targeting companies. I mean, these people, it is an industry, and a very big industry in places like Russia, China, and Iran, and North Korea. A big industry and growing.
Right, I've just seen a funny line come up there. A lady who had sent in, a lady called Patricia Young. If she's out there, Patricia, hello. And if you turn out to be Arthur, then I apologise to you. But Patricia Lowe, she says, she said on there, I'm not a bot. But of course, that, as that ad says, that's what a bot would say. You know, it's a funny thing. Anyway, Bob, look, I've got to go. You've got to go. Thank you very much for your time. It's always great to speak to you and looking so well. Yes, that was
Keep
Colonel
well to yourself, Kelvin.
Yeah, okay.
We're getting older.
We are getting...
Good morning. I'm Edward Hughes Starmer's finally shuffling off after his defence master plan, slapping on £15 billion for drones, hypersonics, and a fancy hybrid navy, while quietly carving out a £5 billion black hole for whoever follows. Brilliant timing, mate. The knob of the North's basically measuring the curtains for number 10, though he'll apparently keep popping back to Manchester, like it's a long commute, promising radical devolution and fixing our broken politics. King Charles has sensibly decided the freshly refurbished Buckingham Palace isn't for living in. Smart man. Why rattle around in a £370 million money pit when you can dodge the drama? England are smashing it at the World Cup. Fans behaving excellently abroad, naturally. While at home, we're still rowing about NHS maternity reports, migrant rules, and whether ditching maths tests for diversity was peak civil service genius. Laters, tigers.
Back.
Okay. Hi there. Before we come to the wonderful June Slater, who has a very strong view about everything, probably including the fact that she's being quizzed by a bald-headed old bloke, but I'm rather taken by the fact that Zoe Ball has moved to, I think it's called Greatest Hits Radio. Now, why this is interesting is that you may remember there was a guy called Ken Bruce. He used to appear on Radio 2. They decided that Ken Bruce was too old for Radio 2. Now, absolutely ridiculous. The whole point of Radio 2 is it's aimed at an older listener, certainly an older music, okay? So they push him out, and Greater Hits Radio snaps him up because he has a I can't remember what his he has a particular Popmaster. Yes, that's right. But he has a thing called Popmaster, and some people I know love Popmaster. Okay, well, of course the BBC dropped the clanger of a lifetime, pushing him out the door, and 500,000 of the audience went with him. Fantastic. I am in favour of commercial, right? Right? Yeah, you're paying through advertising, right? Advertisers want to reach this audience. And so the bigger the audience you have, the more you can charge for advertising, you make yourself some money and you give a load of it to the talent. Over here, it works a different way. We haven't got any advertising. The only people we've got are you, right? And I'm doing my best to actually reduce the amount of money because I am trying to become poorer through presentation. It's working, by the way. I'm going skin every single second. So every minute I spend here costs me money, but I do it because I'm here to aggravate you. Anyway, so the next thing that happens, I think that they have a guy called Simon Mayo joins them. And that's enormously helpful. They will take on anybody from Radio 2 to join them because it helps them. I'm in favour of that because I don't want to see the BBC continue to be funded in this way, okay? So actually, I'd like to see them funded by subscription. I think that's fair. To turn around to me and say, I want to charge you 185 quid, I would pay that money, right? I would definitely pay a £5 a month for the BBC. And actually, I don't want their television, actually. My missus, by the way, would pay for the television, so that's another £5. That's a £10 a month, so they're up to 120 anyway, right? £5 a month, I pay for the audio. I like listening to their Test Match special, and I like listening to the Today programme, mainly because I suffer from low blood pressure, and so when I listen to the Today programme, it goes back up again. It keeps me alive, which makes me make this programme. So you may be in favour, actually, of me not listening to the Today programme so that I cark it. Well, that would be a bit cruel, wouldn't it? That would be a bit unfair. But the good news here now is that Zoe Ball has now joined Greatest Hits Radio. I am puzzled by this. At one stage, she was running the breakfast show for Radio 2 and was getting paid 950 grand a year or £1 million a year, which is more money than Croesus, actually. £1 million a year in which you're doing virtually no work and except saying, after this, I don't know, Styles or Glenn Miller. Yeah, Glenn Miller. Actually, that reminds me of that gag. What was that? What was that thing where people used to impersonate? It was on ITV. And
Stars in their eyes.
Stars in their eyes, right? Where they had stars in their eyes, and said after that they had some rather tall actor bloke used to introduce them. And said after this, it's going to be Glenn Miller. And what happened was he went into the fog and never came out again. Now you have to be old to understand that gag, right? Right. But that because I think Glenn Miller died in a plane crash. Anyway, having mucked up that gag, not that we should be laughing at people who die in plane crashes, of course, and I apologise for anybody just about to get on a plane. Actually, I apologise to anybody about to get on a plane at Terminal 5 because they're likely to spend the rest of their holiday cooped up in a plane on a distant part of the airport. I have no idea what Terminal 5 will look like or when Heathrow gets another runway. Can you imagine that? Do you know what a nightmare the M25 is now? The idea that they're planning to build over it, I can't imagine the length of the traffic jam. Anyway, so go back to old Zoe Ball. How is it that she turns down? She then walks away from Radio 2. Why did she do that? I don't know. Anyway, next minute she's popping up on Greatest Hits Radio. I'm in favour of Greatest Hits Radio. Go on to it. I just can't understand how Zoe Ball one minute is a massive star on Radio 2, the next minute is getting, I presume, less money for Greatest Hits Radio. But anyway, look, we should all join in. So Ken Bruce made a great decision, followed by Simon Mayo, and then now Zoe Ball. So basically it's Radio 2 in repose. Anyway, so I'm in favour of anything which damages the BBC. In our lifetime, surely we will change from being forced to be paid by law or face going to jail, 185 quid, a more preposterous taxation you couldn't believe. And at some stage, somebody bright, I hope it's Nigel Farage, comes along and says, love the BBC, you can pay for it in exactly the same way you pay for Netflix or Prime or anything, right? And actually, I think they do well. And if they want to be, quotes, news central, news, kind of in the middle, fine. Let GB News do what it does. Let Sky do what it does. Whatever. It will be equally successful. In fact, may even be more successful because it would stop people like me complaining, and I'd still pay. I would pay for it. I would pay for the audio. Okay. Now, joining me right now, a lady called June Slater. Hi, June. How are you?
I'm all right, thank you, Kelvin.
Okay. Well, you're looking well. You look as though you've been in the back garden for about 12 years. Why are you looking so well?
I've been in the back garden for about 12 years.
Is that true?
Yeah.
Where is your back garden? Where's your back garden, June?
Lancashire.
Whereabouts?
Lancashire.
Whereabouts in Lancashire? Whereabouts, approximately?
Approximately. Lancashire will do. Do you think I want any trolls turning up at my doorstep? No, I'm in the northwest. So.
Okay, jolly good. All right, now, tell me, June, what is aggravating you this morning?
Well, actually, it's not an aggravation because aggravating is something that would be made worse, isn't it? It's just an annoyance, isn't it, to think the country is now basically hostage to a man's ambitions, which is Andy Burnham. It's quite clear from the Makerfield by-election that he's not gone to Makerfield because he wants to make a difference to Makerfield. He tried to get among it in Denton Gorton, but Starmer kind of quashed that. So this is a career move, as I see it, by Andy Burnham to get to number 10. And the thing that astonished me when I was campaigning in Makerfield with Robert, whilst Robert was popular on the ground, he would have made a good MP, actually, because he knows what's going on locally. And when you're campaigning for an election, people are bothered about things that affect them, not national interests. But unfortunately, Burnham seems to have this star quality that some MPs gain with a lot of TV interviews. And a lot of the locals were just actually looking forward to ending up with an MP that would be a Prime Minister, even though it would deplete the time he would spend on them. They'll be getting handled by some spad who's been at the job about 18 months. They're not going to see much of Andy Burnham. And, I think the country deserves better. Not only have we got the worst government in history, voted in with the lowest amount of people, we've now got them handing on the mantle to someone who's only ever been as far as an MP or a minister. And a mayor has never controlled anything more than £3 billion. And it's made a bit of a hash of that, as far as I can see. 104 million spent on a clean air zone that never got off the ground because of public pressure. Well done, the people. And then spent £375,000 a month maintaining the hardware, the cameras that never got switched on. So I don't really think this man has never earned a bean that didn't come from the taxpayer. And now he's going to be running the country. So you have a front bench full of people who've worked in the public sector or the charity division, and then you've got a talent pool that's about as arid as the Gobi Desert, and you've got Andy Burnham that's going to have to select new people. The Treasurer will be interested. If it's that, go with the ukulele, which it's looking like, God help us. We're chasing net zero targets when China's spewing emissions out, and even Tony Blair, the most unpopular person that I come across in politics, has had the audacity to call out Labour and say, well, you shouldn't be doing this. You shouldn't be changing. We're going from 1% to 0. There's no atmospheric changes. You're crippling us whilst China is growing their basic coal-fired power station industry. They've even built a 2,000-kilometre railway just to carry coal. The footprint of building the railway will be bigger than our emissions. And this is supposed to be for the benefit of the planet, to my mind. Manufacture stuff at home, that takes the South China Sea journey of container ships out the frame because you're doing it at home. Make our own steel. Let's get among it. Let's have a proper government. You won't get that till you get a change from the uni party. So I think we are actually a laughing stock now. You know that, don't you? We used to be Great Britain, and now we're just, have you seen what's happening in Britain? If you look in the world press, nobody knows Andy Burnham. They're having to do big explanations as to who he is. And sadly, the people of Makerfield have done this to us. Because
tell me this, though. Tell me this. Is he likely? I mean, did you vote in the mayoral elections which got Burnham elected? Are you in the Greater Manchester area?
No.
Okay,
I didn't have a vote.
Okay. But were you pleased that Starmer was gone and Burnham had come in, or actually are you agnostic? Another bloody socialist. I don't want any of you lot.
Well, what we've got to take away from this, I'm a very positive person and everything's a win. So looking at it from the public's point of view, it's definitely a result to get rid of Starmer for the simple reason you've crushed his career. Even the left, the irony is, even the left have helped to crush his career because they preferred Andy Burnham. So you have stunted that man's growth. So that's result, as far as I'm concerned, because this man wanted to be a renowned statesman. He wanted to have 2 terms in office. He's even told people that, he would, take Britain forward under a communist-style structure. I mean, his first visitors to number 10 were Larry Fink and Bill Gates. Big corporations need big government to survive. And he's sucking up to the EU like some aging judge in a brothel. He's absolutely foul with the things.
Somewhat like an aging judge in a brothel, right? Surely not. Sure, but at the end of it all, actually, I look upon this as a good thing. In one sense, is that if he decides to go further left, as Blair says, when you go left, you only ever get one result. Okay, so actually, I see the result being that Labour get kicked out with an even larger loss than they were going to get kicked out by a ho-hum lawyer.
Exactly. What we've got to look at, and it's difficult to get through to people sometimes, but I work with a lot of reform councillors who are doing amazing work, but the media ignore it. They're stopping solar farms on farmland. They're repaying debts that other people have built up, like the Tories. and the Lib Dem councils and the Labour councils, they're making enormous headway, but all you see is the bad news because nobody wants Nigel Farage to survive. But the reality is this: people on the ground that don't follow politics, that don't look at me or you or anything else that's going on online, there's about 26 million of them. The right wing were about 5 million at best. But the centre ground, that's the harvest. That's where you need people. And if you're too right or you're too left, you won't get them. It's that simple. So what you need is those people who are all getting poorer every day. We're all saying, well, we can't change the car, we can't paint the house. We haven't got enough food in the fridge. We can't buy meat anymore. All these people will be brassed off by the time it comes to an election. And there's nobody else to blame but Labour, no matter what face is in front of it. So what we've achieved, even the left have helped us with this, talk about being more Viking and working with your enemies. What's happened here is the left didn't want Starmer. Even his own people were walking away for him.
Yep.
To see Burnham as a replacement, oh, whoopie-doo, we're going to have Andy Burnham. They'll then find out the hard way that he's no different, in fact, worse. And all the 9 million people that voted for Starmer in the last general election will run for the hills. The red wall will be recreated in turquoise. It's happening now. 3,800 councillors in 12 months go to reform. They're knocking them down like skittles because people have had enough of seeing the expenses of the council tax getting frittered away on housing asylum seekers. I mean, that housing estate, brand new houses that haven't sold because they're going to asylum seekers. It's enough to make a saint swear. So what will happen is the left can't go anywhere but left because that's what they are. And the left have already, the working Labour, what I call real Labour.
I interrupt you then and just watch this video, right, piece of video, and you will work out very quickly what this lady's talking about. It's astonishing. I've never seen anything quite like this.
It used to be our offices. We used to have an office here for some of the social workers, but now, because it was redundant, we've actually turned it into some converted flats. These flats are amazingly finished now. They've got some beautiful carpets, they've got all fitted units, and 4 of them are actually 3-bedroom. So we've got 4 3-bedroom and 1 bedroom. These are going to be for both Afghan, Ukrainian. This is great for them because at the moment they're living in hostels and hotels, and we don't want that to happen in West Berkshire. So to get them into actually these sorts of accommodations, and such a lovely finish as well. It's beautiful. If you can look around, you can see the light in here. It's amazing. And we've got heat source pumps and actually proper cool radiators, heated radiators in the bathrooms, showers and baths. It's a really lovely finish. And we're going to have EV charging points outside for the car parking, which is, again, the latest innovations.
So what do you make of that? You see, so that lady, I'm told, is a councillor for West Berkshire. I don't know whether you know West Berkshire. I can't believe that the voters of West Berkshire thought that was a good, the expenditure was worthwhile, nor her acting as a PR for that kind of expenditure, for that kind of clientele. I mean, what about ordinary people? What about people who live locally in West Berkshire? I mean, I find it astonishing.
Put her in a taxi and take her around to someone's house that I know who've got their friends living in a touring van on the drive because they were made homeless, because their landlord, they're both in work, they're not lazy, they're both working, they've got a family. And they're living in the touring van on a friend's drive because their landlord decided to coin it in by turning his house over to migrants, getting 3 times the rent they were paying. They've been there 12 or 13 years, and they've been given leave to quit, which they were allowed to do. There's not in arrears, there's nothing wrong. And they're living in a caravan. And this woman is telling us this is a good idea. Let's just take the Ukrainians out the picture. Lancashire County Council have already said that they will not be taking any more refugees in the next batch because we're already oversubscribed. They're putting a cap on it. And this is what's happening at council level. It's really important that people take more notice of what's going on at council level instead of being focused on leaders of parties and Westminster. Get among your councillors. There's thousands and thousands and thousands of them across the country spending your money. You don't know what it's going on. It's only since reform have taken over the councils that we've got any idea what the money's being spent on. And this is just the kind of bullshit we need to know about before it happens. Who asked the people paying the council tax if that's okay? Nobody.
No, I buy that. And the thing is, these people are so detached from, or are they detached? See, this is the real point, June. They're detached from me, they're detached from you. But I suspect that lady, I'm guessing, is a Lib Dem, because what's happened in the Lib Dem is that in the home counties, I mean, it's been astonishing, right? In the council elections, virtually the whole of the South went Lib Dem, right? There were no Tories. Round my way, the one reform got slung out, right? Got defeated. And this is, so I wonder how it is that the home counties don't think these issues apply to them and yet do apply in other areas where reform particularly, but even the Conservatives slightly, at least got some votes. In those council elections in the South, it was a disaster for reform. It was a very interesting upswing. I don't know these people who voted for Lib Dem. I suspect I wouldn't want to know them. But that lady clearly was speaking, she thought she was speaking to her voters. So I wonder whether you and I are totally detached actually from some forms of ordinary people.
Well, I think what you've got to look at, Berkshire, she's probably living in a place that's never had an influx of immigration or had the town turned into a sanctuary city and had to live with the changes that take place. People working illegally for Deliveroo and other suppliers of fast food. And, you know, living next door to an HMO where you used to have a neighbour who's, people are moving out of the house, renting themselves so that they can rent their house for 3 times the rent. Bearing in mind, any damage gets repaired. One house had a new central heating put in, 2 kitchens. They turned it into like a multiple dwelling, 2 kitchens, turned a spacious 3-bedroomed house into a 6-bedroomed house, furnished it. Apparently what happens is these migrants don't necessarily get on with each other. They're all men and they fall out, they have rows, they're drinking, they're on their phones, they're watching obscenities and they fall out with each other. So then there's a quick response team that turn up and sort it out. The property's repaired and at no expense to the landlord who's coining it. The moment you sign your deal with Serco or a similar supplier, you get the money. You get the money while they're doing it up. And these teams of people, these builders that go around to do it up, got body cams on. They just look like DIY people. They've no uniform. And they come in to do the house up, to get it ready for migrants to move in at Serco or whichever company it is, at their expense. It's a government agency. So imagine if you could get, up where I live, you would get maybe 900 quid for a 3-bedroomed house. And all of a sudden you're getting 2,400 and people are moving out to do that. So this
whereabouts can I do that, June?
Anywhere you want in Lancashire.
Yeah, really.
Anywhere you want. Yeah. Go around Burnley and Accrington, you'll get a 3-bedroomed house for 650 quid, unless you're Serco.
That is
we're being
astonishing.
done over. We're being done over by for sanctimonious goodwill towards people who don't live in this country. Our own homeless get ignored. And this is what's wrong. And nobody's got the common sense to turn
What would you do about that? By the way, I'm told, I've never seen it, but I'm told you've got a great YouTube channel. And the reason I know that is because every 5 seconds there's a text coming up saying, forget this Tosh, she's got a great YouTube channel. But what would you do? It's easy to have this feeling. A feeling of anger and frustration. But we have got to the point now where, there are big towns in the UK, London being one of them, where we are now dominated by people from elsewhere. There's no ifs and buts about it. It's a strange thing to have seen. Okay, so what would you actually do about it? Haven't we reached the point now where there is very little we can do about it? We can rail against the light, but beyond that, actually to have a conventional policy response seems damn difficult.
You have to take away the things that they came for. And what they came for is an easy touch. It's easier to work on the black, i.e. cash. It's easier to work here than any other country in Europe. That's why they leave France, because it's easier to come here and disappear. Forget the ones coming in the dinghies that are being escorted ashore by the RNLI. They're coming up on the beach and running off. How do you do that? Mobile phone and a mate. You have a mate already here, and then you go into a multiple occupancy and you go and work cash somewhere like car wash, taxi rank. A lot of taxi drivers are insured because they keep using foreigners. And what you have to do is shut it down. Now, where we've missed a beat when we left the European Union and we got our sovereignty back, the following day, anybody with any balls should have served notice on the ECHR. That would have cut the red tape that all these human rights lawyers rely on to challenge failed asylum claims. We shouldn't be taking anybody who hasn't got any identification.
Okay, fine, right. Can I just show you where the Tories are on all this? There's a very good show on GB News run by Michelle Dewberry. It's at 6 o'clock at night. She had Michael Gove on there. Or Lord Michael Gove. This was an absolute shocker to me and shows where the beating heart of the Conservatives are and why Badenoch but where Badenoch might have a good public image, I don't know, but certainly the troops behind her are not singing from the same hymn sheet. Watch this, June.
You want to be British. Are you prepared to subscribe to the core values of Britishness?
But what? I mean, if I decided I wanted to be Japanese, I'm not going to be Japanese, am I?
But one of the glories about the United Kingdom.
Let's just express this point. If I decide to go and get a job in Japan and I decide I want to be Japanese, nobody's going to take me seriously if I describe myself as Japanese. Likewise, if I meandered off to China and decided I want to live there. Again, if I describe myself as a Chinese person, nobody's going to really take me seriously.
I think one of the differences between the United Kingdom and certainly China, Japan is a more complex case, is that people have come here over time, fleeing persecution or seeking a better life, and they've become British. So if one looks at Britain's Hindu or Sikh or Jewish communities, then I don't think that anyone can say that they're anything other than effectively integrated. I don't think you can look at Rishi Sunak's parents and say they're not British.
Well, I saw a case at the weekend, and I've got to watch my footing here because it's a live case, so I can't speculate about the guilt of the person involved. But they were talking about it was like a British Somalian or a Somalian British man or something. And I was like, what are you talking about?
Mo Farah.
If someone is, I know, but what I'm trying to say is, and again, I maybe shouldn't have used this example because it's a live case that I probably can't delve into.
No.
It's about when somebody wants to understand the picture in this country, when you want to understand, for example, crime statistics by ethnicity and all the rest of it, we're constantly getting told. There was a guy the other day and he got wheeled out as a Yorkshire man. And I looked at the picture and I looked at the guy and I looked at his background. I was like, he's not a Yorkshire man. And I found it deeply insulting that somebody had come to my county, Yorkshire, and is now actively described as a Yorkshire man when he absolutely isn't. And the point that I was raising to you before the break is that when we're talking about these influxes of people and all the rest of it, and I'm saying to you that many white Britons in this country, they do fear that they are going to become a minority in this country.
And not only that, there are lots of people from different groups and different communities who are concerned, legal migrants and people whose families came here 10, 20 or 50 years ago, who also want migration to be managed effectively as well. And if there are people here who have a laugh, if there are people who come here who are drug dealers, criminals, who make themselves deliberately reliant on the state because they're not going to contribute, if there are people who seek to lead parallel lives, if there are people who don't respect...
Right. So, look, Gove is no fool, but he is actually one of the issues, a major issue, a major policy maker of our country. By the way, he gave us the Renters Act. Don't even think about that. All that Renters Act And that was basically written by every renters charity in the world, so that anybody who's ever rented out a house now is at risk from somebody turning around and saying, I'm not paying, and then that's a year to go before you can actually turf these people out. These people are gaming the bloody system. I hate them for it. Right, I agree with balance, but the pressure on the landlord and the pressure on the tenant are completely different now. It's like that, totally ridiculous. But people like Gove, right? I think he's the wrong guy to be the editor of The Spectator. I mean, not that I got anything against him personally, but with his kind of attitude, right, explaining it all, oh, everything's great, I don't know, you're talking about white British, don't be racist and all the rest of it, I think actually makes him unsuitable, right? He's out of kilter with his own people. The best columnists in The Spectator are all people towards whom would watch your YouTube channel and feel at home. I might even watch this show if they were short of 2 hours of being bored to death. June, I think I'm going to say goodbye to you. It's a shame, really, because I was really starting to get into that. I love it when the videos come in and everybody can then join in. So I'm going to have to put more effort and energy in my side. Thank you very much indeed to see you, June, and I hope to see you again soon.
Thank you.
Right. Well, we are now coming to the crunch point. Tonight is the moment of truth. Is Tuchel worth his money? And the answer we are about to find out. I think, have we got a super chat coming up?
Yes.
Oh yeah. Well, let's read some super chat. That's money, because things aren't going very well at the moment. So that's from Simon Kilford. He sent in 10 quid. I could do with £10. That's very useful. And we have from, I can't quite see, the Seaside Babe. Oh, I like that. Yeah. Will the new number 10 in where? Manchester have air conditioning. Actually, that is a good line, Seaside Babe. Actually, we should find out. Yeah. And actually, he'd be mad. Mind you, in Manchester, I suppose more likely to be an umbrella of some kind. Doesn't it rain a lot in Manchester? I think it probably does. I've got another one here from, I can't see it. Uncle Joe. How are you, Uncle Joe? It says what? Need more straight talking, common sense people in the saturated lefty ideology of mainstream media. Actually,
you up.
Well, I don't know about bigging me up, but I tell you, that bigs up Mike Graham, because Mike Graham has been at the centre of that really for the last 10 or 15 years, which is why he brought such a large audience from him when he decided to leave Talk Radio.
That's one from your missus.
Oh, right. That's right. Lou, yeah, I like you, Lou. You're beginning to warm on me. If you could just send me a super chat for 10 million, that would be helpful. Actually, if Nigel Farage did it, he'd get a super chat for 5 million and a free gold bar. Right. I think we're supposed to go to Mark now, aren't we? So, Mark, the moment of truth. The moment of truth. What's your bet? What's the result tonight? So what time? It's going to end about 7 o'clock tonight. It starts at 5. Yep. If you had to bet, where do you see us beating the Congo?
Yes, I think it's going to be quite comfortable for England, actually, Kelvin. I'm feeling optimistic to the point of feeling cocky. This is only the first mini moment of truth. We now know after last night's games that if we do get through, we'll face Mexico in Mexico City in the next round. That truly would be a moment of truth. But I'm feeling quite cocky about it. As you know, Kelvin, on my show, we are linguistic pedants to the final degree. We refuse to call Ivory Coast Côte d'Ivoire. In fact, there's no ivory left in the Ivory Coast. All the elephants have gone, so we're just calling them Coast now. And we're being very clear about England's opponents tonight, given the way they spell their country's name. It's Dr. Congo. It's not the Democratic Republic of Congo, it's Dr. Congo. And I'm pretty confident that England will overcome Dr. Congo this evening. You're right, it's a 5 o'clock kickoff. And so I've already heard from a lot of viewers who are trying to work out what excuse to give to their boss to have to leave work a little bit early to get to a TV set by 5 o'clock. And it's pretty simple. Just say, I have to leave early. I've got an appointment with Dr. Congo. You will be telling no word of a lie, and your boss will be mightily impressed that you've managed to get yourself an NHS appointment. So that's the win-win excuse to get yourself in front of the TV screens late this afternoon.
Okay, so I watched, as you did, France last night.
Yeah.
Why are we in the same tournament? I mean, there's been a substantial, some of that Mbappe stuff, some of the other guys, Dembele and the other chap who I think, whose name I can't remember, but honestly, he was like a silken god. We unfortunately don't possess that quality of people. And there's something that's happened to Mbappe, hasn't it? He is very active in the game, which is not really like him. He really does want to to put his, I think he feels competitive to Messi and wants to emerge as the star. But what did you make of that skill set?
Yeah, pretty astonishing last night. Kelvin, throughout this tournament, from months before it started until that match, most pundits were saying this is an incredibly open World Cup. There's no massively standout team. If one of the chasing pack gets a lucky bounce or suddenly turns on a performance for 90 minutes, there's a swathe of teams who can win it. Nobody is the nailed-on favourites. After France's smashing of Sweden last night, I think we do now have a standout team. So put England aside, the bigger question for the whole tournament is, can anyone stop France? And you're right, Mbappe has now found a rich vein of form. He is tied with Messi for the Golden Boot. That's for who scores the most goals in the course of this tournament. He's only one behind Messi for his total number of career goals in the World Cup, and he will play probably 2 more World Cups. So the French are the team to beat. But I've got some good news, Kelvin. Our research team...
Don't tell me your show is shutting down.
Yeah, I know you'd like to hear that. Our extensive research team have crunched through all the numbers, looking at the 16 European teams in this tournament. And there is no doubt on the statistics that if you want to do well, you want to be outside of the European Union with no plans to join it. That gives you a much better chance, all of our stats show, of progressing in the tournament. We'll be unveiling that key research on my show coming up.
Do you know, that is a clever piece of work. Well done there, Mark. Well, I look forward to your show, and I look forward to talking to tomorrow about the surprise result of the Democratic Congo 2, England 0. Anyway, that's a gag. Come on, England, do it. I couldn't stand us going out this early. I'm at peace with Mexico. I wouldn't be at peace with Congo. So I've started painting the Tuchel must go banner just to have it ready, just in case it happens. Anyway, I look forward to the show.
Always a ray of sunshine, Kelvin. Always a ray of sunshine.
Good to speak to you, Mark. Okay, that's it. Thank you very much indeed for watching. I trust you enjoyed it, and I can carry on sponsoring this show, obviously, for another week. Good to speak to you. See you tomorrow. Bye.
Good morning. I'm Edward Hughes Starmers, finally shuffling off after his defence master plan, slapping on £15 billion for drones, hypersonics, and a fancy hybrid navy, while quietly carving out a £5 billion black hole for whoever follows. Brilliant timing, mate. The knob of the North's basically measuring the curtains for number 10, though he'll apparently keep popping back to Manchester like it's a long commute, promising radical devolution and fixing our broken politics. King Charles has sensibly decided the freshly refurbished Buckingham Palace isn't for living in. Smart man. Why rattle around in a £370 million money pit when you can dodge the drama? England are smashing it at the World Cup. Fans behaving excellently abroad, naturally. While at home, we're still rowing about NHS maternity reports, migrant rules, and whether ditching maths tests for diversity was peak civil service genius. Laters, tigers.
Well, welcome back to my World Cuppa show. Big day for England, just as I was discussing with Kelvin there. We are up against an opponent we should beat, and we're going to be discussing England's prospects against Dr. Congo. That's the way they spell it, so that's the way we're going to pronounce it. And if anyone's in any doubt about that, I've managed to dig up a clip from a sweepstake where I think the English people are on my side. Tonight's game is England versus Dr. Congo. I wonder, Pooch, if we can show clip number 4 just to completely prove my point.
Dr. Congo.
The Democratic Republic.
That does not say that. Definitely doesn't say that. But that.
You're right, love. it is definitely Dr. Congo. England versus Dr. Congo this evening. We'll be getting into all of that, as well as looking at last night's game and the fearsome French team. They were absolutely brilliant. We've tried to generate some images to kind of sum up what the match tonight, England against the Congo, is going to look like. I wonder if we could show image number 5, because I'm a bit worried that AI-generated images could be a bit racist. We asked for an AI-generated image. This is what they gave us. Dr. Congo will see England now. Massive, great gorilla, presumably working for the NHS. We do need lots of NHS workers who aren't Indigenous Brits, apparently. So we thought that might be a bit off. So we went for another one as well, image number 4. But this could be a bit culturally insensitive, I think. Is that really the leader of the Congo? Dr. Congo there looks more like a Bond villain. Anyway, it's the big match tonight. As I was suggesting at the end of Kelvin's show, if you need an excuse to get off work early, to get in front of a TV screen at 5 o'clock, just say you have an appointment with Dr. Congo. Your boss will be impressed that you've shown the skills and persistence to get an NHS appointment, and you will have told no word of a lie. Listen throughout today's show to talk us through England's prospects, to look back at last night's games, to cover the other games this evening, is my Hampshire ally, although on the blue side of Hampshire, the Pompey side rather than the Saints side, Paul Cox. Coxie the Fox in the box. How the devil are you? So look, we got matching shirts today. What a
we do. We're on the same team today, at least, aren't we? Of course we are. I'm slightly nervous, actually. Good nervous energy. I think that's because Tuchel's England haven't really given us the confidence, and I think about this all the time. Had we won every game 4-0, I'd still be nervous we were going to lose to Dr. Congo, but there's just something that's been missing so far. But it does feel like there are depths that we could go to, that we could draw out something a bit more special, Mark, and I hope it comes out tonight.
Yeah, I think we'll be fine. Look, let's have a look back on yesterday's matches, Paul. So Coast, as we're now calling them, Coast, have been knocked out of the competition. The Vikings of Norway invaded the Coast and took it over. Norway beat Coast 2-1. This sets up in the next round Brazil versus Norway. Pretty tasty fixture. What did you make of the Norwegians getting through? They're a pretty kind of brutal team. It's not kind of absolutely beautiful, elegant football, but by God, they are strong and direct.
No, very effective football. They have huge men playing for them. It was heartbreaking for the Coast, of course. They battled back level the match through Ahmed Diallo. But Erling Haaland struck late, of course. Big Erling, late to send Norway through. Norway now face Brazil, as you say. But Norway won their first ever World Cup knockout game last night, Mark, with Haaland's winner being his 5th goal of the tournament so far, putting him firmly in the race for the Golden Boot. So we can't underestimate Norway all the time. They've got the massive, great Erling Haaland.
Yeah, although you were being a bit generous to the Manchester City centre forward there, Paul. You said he struck the second goal. I've seen that goal now about 8 or 10 times. It sort of gently comes off his boot and rolls into the back of the net at a pedestrian pace. I think it was more the ball struck him than he struck the ball, to be strictly accurate on our punditry and commentary, right?
Yeah, and when I saw it, I thought to myself, has there been some sort of offside call? Because it seemed to have, it had the essence of a goal that isn't a goal, because the referee's already blown the whistle that we haven't heard yet. The players are aware. He tucked it away just in case VAR disagree with him. But of course, no, that was the goal, and that's what Haaland does, doesn't he? He doesn't do anything for 90 minutes, and then just for 30 seconds perks up a little bit. His vitamin jab kicks in, and off he goes. He caresses one in the back of the net like he's making love to the football, Mark.
So let's just have a look at image 1 then. This is the Vikings of Norway having kicked out Coast. They are out. I still don't know whether that is an elk or a moose. Apparently AI thinks that an elephant should still represent Coast, even though I'm told there's no elephants there. But the Norwegians are through. And I'll tell you what, it was a reasonably exciting match, quite a nervy one. But the great thing about being here in the beautiful town of Calidore with loads of sports bars and loads of fans from other teams is I was able to watch it with a bunch of Norwegian fans in the tropical garden in Calador. Let's have a look at clip number 1, Pooch. Bunch of happy Norwegian fans there. Big test in the next round. But of course, the last time Norway faced Brazil in the World Cup, that was way back in 1998. The Norwegians beat Brazil 2-1. Look, some of these stats are a bit different.
Game, I think.
Last group game, yeah, and actually knocked Morocco out and let Norway get through. Look, we've got to have a quick word about the French. Spectacular, right? I mean, anyone I think who thinks there isn't a standout team in this competition is wrong. France are now, in my view, clearly the favourites, especially based... Look, we knew they were probably narrowly the favourites before the competition started, but based on last night, nailed on favourites, aren't they, Paul?
Yeah, I think it's a good point you make as well, because I've often heard people say, well, there isn't really a standout team. There's no one truly exciting. But I've not really seen a French game where I've not thought France could win this World Cup. And it was a statement performance. They are really growing. Obviously, Kylian Mbappe scored twice, formidable player. And Bradley Barcola, he added another in a dominant display. Michael Olise, he was outstanding again, providing 2 assists as France looked very much the tournament favourites. France have now won 4 from 4 in this World Cup. So if you've not been paying attention, they are not beaten yet. No one's going, oh, France, that was lucky. They're going, oh, France, what are we going to do if we ever have to play them? Anyone who's playing France will hope to meet them in the final because they're just strolling through teams at the moment. And there seems to be a real camaraderie about this French team. The way when Mbappe came off and the manager's praising him and the players are saying, oh, the great one. It's incredible. Look, they do look really, really tasty, Mark, and I don't fancy playing them at any point. Maybe in a final where there's a bit of nerves, but I've not seen anything from England yet that would suggest that we're going to smash them in any way, or even Brazil, or even Argentina. Germany have gone, that doesn't matter anymore, but I've not really seen anything from those big teams that says they're going to beat France.
So image 2 shows the French smashing the Swedes, probably predictable. Look, I put that wild bet on that Sweden would somehow get through the competition. As you know, I'm chasing my losses. Nobody has offered me £22,500 per hour to support their gold business or their cryptocurrency, but I kind of desperately need it now, given how my betting is going pretty badly. The Swedish manager, Graham Potter, said, France are a great team. We would have had to have been at our absolute best to have beaten them. But frankly, even if Sweden, he said, had been at their best, they almost certainly still would have lost. Sorry to see Sweden go. I've always got a soft spot for the Scandinavians. But it reminds me of that story, which goes back to, I think it was Euro 2020. We, England, played Sweden in, I think it was the quarterfinals, and we beat them 2-0. And the second goal was a thundering Harry Maguire header. One of the reasons that you might be missing Harry Maguire in this tournament is, if you're in a sticky spot and we get a corner kick, he's a good bet to score with a header. So he scored, we knocked Sweden out. And then somebody dug up something that was apparently a tweet of Maguire's from a few years earlier where he was less famous, still doing quite well as a footballer, but not a national icon. And Maguire had apparently tweeted, I'm in my flat. I'm trying to put together an IKEA wardrobe. It has taken me 4 hours and I have got nowhere. I swear to God, Sweden, I will take revenge on you in this life or the next. And he managed to take revenge within a couple of years. I don't know if it's true, but I hope it's true. It's a great story. Look, lastly, Mexico, Ecuador. That was the middle of the night game. Paul, what did you make of that one? Mexico are through. Massive celebrations on the streets again, but sad to report, I think 2 Mexican fans have died as a result of the chaos on the streets. I don't think it's been violence as such. I think it's been overcrowding, but I think tear gas has been used. But Mexico are through to the next round, meaning if we beat Dr. Congo tonight, then we will face Mexico in Mexico City. That is quite daunting.
Yeah, so the co-host produced one of the best performances of the tournament. Quinones opened the scoring before Raul Jimenez doubled the lead with a superb strike. And Mexico now await the winners of the England and Dr. Congo game, as you say. Look, it was a huge night for Mexico. I was actually on the phone with a colleague who was in Washington, D.C. at about 3:30 a.m. this morning, and I heard the second Mexico, I think it was the second Mexico, go in from her apartment from bars across the street. So the Mexicans are thoroughly enjoying their World Cup. And look, a dangerous prospect for England should we get past Dr. Congo. And, you know, an appointment with Dr. Congo, particularly if he wants to do a prostate exam, could really be damaging for us, given the size of Dr. Congo's enormous fingers, Mark. So let's hope we bypass that treatment.
Name Shame says in the chat, Dr. Congo will test your blood pressure. He's damn right. That's brilliant. And just before I bring in our first guest, the great Bill Etheridge, one of the new rules of the tournament, because they've been in a few, they've snuck in a few, right, Paul? There's a different rule about what attacking players can do in the box just before a corner kick is taken. You've got to take a throw in within 5 seconds, I think it is. If you fail to do that, the throw in goes to the other team. If you're substituted, you've got to get off the pitch within 10 seconds, or the player who's coming on to replace you can't come on for a further minute. They've tinkered with all the rules, as they always kind of do. It's like the update of the kind of Dungeons and Dragons rule book. You know, they keep tinkering with it on the sidelines, revealing my inner nerd there. But there's one rule that I can't really understand why they brought it in, which is you can't talk to an opposing player if you've got your mouth covered, right? So if I'm talking to Cox like this and calling him a dodgy, pompey git, I will get sent off. But I will probably get sent off even if I say, Paul, what a pleasure to spend an hour in your company. What is that rule? An Ecuadorian player sent off for it, right?
Yeah, it's kind of woke, this rule. This is what I'm saying anyway, because it's saying that anybody who covers their mouth is 100% saying something racist, which is not true, as you say. And he actually more leant into his ear and whispered, you know, sweet nothings into his ear. It was kind of hidden what he was saying. We don't know what he said. The player didn't look outraged, but he did capitalise straight away on the new rule. And they all gathered around the Mexican players, around the referee, saying, somebody's just spoken with their hand over their mouth. They must be sent off the field of play immediately. And we're all a little bit confused. And then the referee did it.
Yeah, crazy stuff. Probably home advantage there. That's going to be a problem if England do beat the good doctor later on today. Put all your dosh on England 3-0, Mark. Well, I'll reveal my bet later on. It is a very patriotic and optimistic bet. Paul, we're going to be back in a while to see what we've got in Cox's box about Dr. Congo. You've got all the facts we need to know about Dr. Congo. Dr. Congo the man, Dr. Congo the nation, Dr. Congo the footballing team. So we'll be back with you just shortly. But I'm joined now by Bill Etheridge, former member of the European Parliament, Wolverhampton Wanderers fan, chairman recently of the Dudley Conservatives. Bill, great to have you with us. How the devil are you doing, sir? How's it looking from Dudley this World Cup so far?
Well, hi, Mark, and thank you for having me on. First of all, to say, yes, I'm in the car because our famous West Midlands traffic meant that I got held up in a huge jam, and I'm now on a well-known supermarket car park, but in the beautiful borough of Dudley, so it's still all good. The World Cup is looking fantastic. I've really enjoyed it, and I didn't expect to at all. I've enjoyed Ecuador's performances. Japan have been great value, and of course, if England don't happen to go past Mexico, well, they've got the legendary Wolves striker, Raul Jimenez. Si, senor, give Raul the ball and he will score. So I've got someone to support all the way.
Well, Bill, it sounds a little bit as if your loyalties are somewhat torn, right? I mean, firstly, I've got to ask you, do you think England will get past Dr. Congo tonight? I'm pretty confident we will beat Dr. Congo. But look, we didn't look great against two of the, I guess, smaller teams. It's not fair to call them minnows, but Ghana and Panama. Oh, painstaking to watch. Are you anticipating a similar match against Dr. Congo this evening? That Dr. Congo will put himself and 10 nurses behind the ball in order to try and prevent England getting any shots on target. That's the way they're going to play it, isn't it?
Yeah, I think the good doctor will have a bus full of nurses and park it in front of the goal line. But I have a two-part bet for you, if you like a multiplier. I think that England will win handsomely tonight, playing attacking football, looking brilliant. They'll win 4-0, and we'll all get really excited. And then they'll play Mexico and put in a damn squib of a performance, playing sideways, backwards, and not forwards, and lose 1-0.
Well, there you go. Okay. Well, one step at a time, right? One step at a time. Now, you're an earthy, Wolves fan from the Red Wall, kind of traditional football fan, Bill. Commiseration on Wolves going down, but I think you'll enjoy the Championship next season. We must meet up for Saints versus Wolves next season. That could be a pretty corking game. But as a kind of earthy, traditional football supporter, and I think that's a fair way to describe you, what do you make of how the USA have hosted this World Cup? We've looked at some of the stadia. It looks like watching association football in a spaceship. There's all sort of ticker tape and razzmatazz. There's these bloody hydration breaks to try and make football a game of 4 quarters rather than 2 halves. Nevertheless, even if it's got all that glitz and glamour rather than a cup of Bovril while you're sitting in a kind of rickety wooden seat, they've done it pretty goddamn well, haven't they? I mean, it does seem to be that the USA really know how to put on a show. Or do you think it's kind of losing some of its nostalgia, its magic, its tradition, football?
Well, let me say there's absolutely nothing wrong with a cup of Bovril in a rickety wooden seat watching football, and that's how I prefer my football. Maybe that's the traditional Wolves man coming through in me. I speak as someone who can't even get their head around the idea of VAR. So when you've got hydration breaks and announcers shouting out number 24 for USA, yellow card, and during the game, it's just, I don't like it. I try and drown it out. I just try and focus on the football. For me, I just want to see a flat back four, bombing the ball forward down the wings, long balls, getting the ball across, because I was brought up and raised at the Molineux, and that's what we expect to see. However, your earlier mention of France, I have to concede that maybe some of this pretty football is quite worth it after having seen them last night.
Yeah, they do look pretty spectacular. Someone's going to have to get lucky against them, but you can get a bit of a bobble of good luck, or just hope you catch Mbappe or Elise on a bad day, or Dembele on a bad day. But it's going to require that luck, right? I think every team that plays them will be the underdogs. I'm with you, Bill, about liking kind of traditional English football. There's a friend of mine who goes to lots of non-league football. He even considers the English Football League to be a bit too corporate for him. And he recounted, I can't remember which non-league team it was, but it might have been Nuneaton Borough in the West Midlands. It might have been, I'm not sure. But this is a traditional English football experience. At half-time, he goes to the van that sells the snacks and the food and the drinks, and he asks for a cup of Bovril, very traditional English drink in the winter if you're watching football, and a meat pie. And he's given the cup of Bovril, takes a nice sip of that salty brown juice, really enjoying that. He takes a bite out of the meat pie, and he looks at the lady in the van and says, what kind of meat is this? And the lady in the van just stares at him and says,
ask.
It's brown meat. That's the sort of stuff that you get served. But I'm all for that. But do you reckon there's any chance, Bill, I'm asking a lot of my guests here, that soccer will ever truly take off in America, or of NFL, baseball, basketball, ice hockey, possibly even tennis and golf got a lock? We've got a clip here about the Americans kind of not really understanding what football chanting is all about. Let's play clip number 10, because I just don't think they get association football yet. That's clip number 10, showing you how they don't quite get it.
If you want the States to win, clap your hands. If you want the States to win, clap your hands. If you really want to win and you don't want to lose, if you really want to live, clap your hands. I believe America will win. E-I-E-I-O. With a win-win here and a win-win there. Here a win, there a win, everywhere a win. We will win, do-do-do-do-do-do. We will win, do-do-do-do-do-do. We will win, do-do-do-do-do. We will.
What do you reckon, Bill? I mean, look, it's all nice, and American sports always have a great family atmosphere. You can take the missus, you can take the kids. It doesn't have any sort of history of hooliganism. The fans are not segregated. You know, you eat your popcorn, you eat your Cracker Jack, you have a Budweiser or two, you can drink while you're watching the game. But football needs something a little bit edgier about that than that, right? I mean, football is kind of war persecuted through the means of sport peacefully. Isn't that right?
Absolutely. I mean, if that's a typical American football fan, then there's no chance of it taking off, because I think I would be running in fear at the thought of being sat next to this guy. But no, I honestly don't think it will, because America is the ultimate capitalist state, and the most money can be made from those highly established sports that are already in place there. And they've got no tradition of it. You know, I can go to a football match and I go and wear my gold and black and see Wolves play absolutely rubbish football, and then I go to the pub afterwards with my friends and we talk about things that happened before we were born as if we were there. We still talk about Billy Wright. We've got a tradition, and the gold and black is in our veins from the day we're born. It's in every part of our lives. It's not the same for these guys over there, and you're right, it is tribalism to a degree, and I think fortunately it's become tribalism that's more banter nowadays than it used to be, as you and I will remember from the 70s and 80s, which wasn't very nice. But it's still in there. I've got some really great mates who support West Bromwich Albion, but when it comes to a match day, then no, that friendship is on a semi-hole, and things get a bit steamy, and that's how it should be. It's got to mean something. Was it Bill Shankly? It's they say football's life and death. Well, they're wrong. It's much more than that, and that's how it should be if you're going to really take grip as a football fan.
Bill, I'm completely with you. Congrats to America, who can put on a spectacular show, but I'm all for the tradition of football. That it's important. I don't want football to have four quarters and franchises playing against each other. Do you remember back in 1994, they even the Americans even asked if they could have wider goals, so there would be more goals per game. This kind of stuff has got to stop. Although I just saw in the chat as well, women's football, of course, is a big sport in the USA, and the US women's team has been pretty good. Bill, just before I let you go, we have a predictions competition running throughout this tournament. I'm doing quite well in it. Sadly, there's no money involved, so I'm not asking you to put a tenner on your steering wheel. It's just for fun. It's me against the rest of the world, Mark Littlewood against the rest of the world. I, therefore, have the honour of going first in making my prediction, and our guests need to choose after me. And I have actually gone for 4-0 for England, your tip. So you can have any score you want except for England 4, Dr. Congo 0. What are you going for? Any score other than that one?
Any score except the one that I said to you at the start.
Yep. This was all done pre-sealed envelopes. Sorry, Bill.
I believe you, mate. I believe you. 5-0.
5-0. England 5, Dr. Congo 0. There is the prediction of Bill Etheridge. Bill, great to see you, my friend. Thanks for parking up and spending some time with us. We'll get you back on the show, hopefully, after we've beaten Dr. Congo and hopefully even beaten Mexico. Fingers crossed. Great to see you, Bill.
And I shall have my Wolves top on for it. Cheers.
Let's bring in Foxy Cox in the box back onto the show. Paul, Bill Etheridge and myself, sounding pretty confident, aren't we? But you need to tell us.
I was just going to say, Bill Etheridge there, proving you can function very well even if you do drink during the day. He just went straight in with 5-0. I mean, I love that optimism. And Bill speaks in such a way that he kind of took me on board with it. He could have said anything. He could have said, Paul, we're married now and we need to cuddle. And I would have gone, do you know what? We are, Bill, and we are going to win 5-0.
There you go, Bill. You've
charmed us all.
And the last laugh, you'll have the last laugh if England get the 5th goal in the 95th minute.
Oh,
right?
Bill is coming. Bill, I don't care what you're doing tomorrow, mate. Stop it. If we win 5-0 tonight, you are back in tomorrow. You can have my fee. I get 27p per laugh. So if you can get, so you can have my fee.
Now, Paul,
if we win 5-0, I'll do it with my Wolves top on, standing on my head, mate.
Done. We have a pledge. Now, Paul, let's go through what have we got in Cox's box about Dr. Congo, right? And is Mbongo going to be used on the hydration break? We'll come to that in a minute, but I don't think many people know a great deal about Dr. Congo. So tell us what we've got in Cox's box to inform us about the mission of defeating Dr. Congo this evening, Paul.
Oh, look, there's so much to learn about Dr. Congo, and I cannot wait to share it with you. I'll try not to do too much. So Dr. Congo is in Central Africa. Most people are aware of that. It borders with nine, not no in German, 9, the number 9 before 10 countries. The Republic of Congo, which we might speak about in a bit. I wasn't aware that there was a republic as well as the doctor, but the Republic of Congo, Central African Republic, imaginatively named. South Sudan, of course, Uganda, Rwanda. Remember Rwanda? Great scheme. We built some apartments out there, still not used. Burundi, Tanzania, and Zambia and Angola. So 9 countries. It's an absolutely gargantuan country. It's also incredibly resource rich. Dr. Congo holds some of the world's largest reserves of cobalt, which is of course used in crucial electrical vehicle batteries and smartphones. I say crucial, I don't mean that at all. I don't own an EV. If you do, it's crucial for you. It's not for me. I've got a diesel gas guzzler and I'm going around making the earth warm, which is why we can enjoy the summer. But it's also the home of the world's largest, second largest rainforest. Only the Amazon rainforest is bigger. The Congo Basin rainforest spans 6 countries and is one of Earth's most important carbon sinks, which means it sucks in, or it's an Ed Miliband's wet dream, to be honest. It's amazing. The mountain gorillas. This is why AI has become slightly racist. I think it's confused. But the mountain gorillas live there. So Dr. Congo is one of only 3 countries where endangered mountain gorillas can be found in the wild, mainly in Virunga National Park. But let's get on to the football, shall we? Its nickname for Dr. Congo, weirdly, isn't the medic or something obvious like that. It's known as the Leopards, even though throughout all the fact-finding I tried to do yesterday and this morning, there wasn't any mention of leopards, but they are called the Leopards. Their old name, of course, was Zaire. And those who were listening yesterday, and of course they were listening and watching yesterday, Zaire was one of those teams that are no longer exist but have played in the World Cup. And they're a sub-African team, of course, that played in the World Cup in 1974. They won the African Cup of Nations twice, not once, twice, in 68 and 74. So you might not have been aware of that. I thought that was an interesting fact. They've got some Premier League player links to the Congo team as well. Dr. Congo, sorry, Your Honour. Several well-known players, including Yannick Belosi, Cedric Bakambu, and Chancel Mba. And look, there is so much going on with Dr. Congo that I have extra facts as well. I think, first of all, we should talk about Statue Man, Mark. Now, this is one of the best stories, I think, of the World Cup, which is Dr. Congo's Statue Man. I don't know if we've got an image. It doesn't matter if we have.
I think we've got a clip. So I want you to tell me all about Statue Man.
I'm going to tell you all about it.
And if you see the clip, I think it's clip number 5, Pooch. You wouldn't think it's a person. You would think this was a waxwork or indeed a statue. That's clip number 5, if we've got it. Dr. Congo's Statue Man.
So his
now already that quick question of what happens in 2026. And there's a man who pays tribute to late Patrice Lumumba, stands that way the entire match. Motionless. It's a very glowing homage that he pays.
Yeah, so what's all that about? It's an homage to the first president of Dr. Congo, is it?
I've just seen in the chat, by the way, someone asked how many Prem League players are in the Dr. Congo side. 0 as far as I can tell, unless somebody can prove me wrong, and do prove me wrong in the chat. Thanks very much for that, but I couldn't find any. The ones I mentioned were historic. So this is one of the best stories, of course. His real name is Michael Kuka Umbalingo, which I think my parents had that car once, better known as Lumbaba Vieira. So as we've just seen, at every Dr. Congo match, he stands completely motionless for the full 90 minutes. I can't stand motionless for 90 seconds because of all of my ADHD and all the other stuff. Copying the famous statue of Patrice Lumumba, Kinshasa. This is really testing. I'm a pedant as well.
Kinshasa is the capital.
Kinshasa, that's right.
In his way of honouring the statue of the original president is in exactly that sort of pose with his arm up.
I was actually going to do the hand signal there, but someone will crop that up. And all the rumours about me will be proven true. It's his way of honouring the country's independence hero, of course, as you just mentioned. If you spot Dr. Congo fan standing absolutely still while everyone else is going mad, that's not a mannequin, of course. It does look like one. It genuinely does. As Mark pointed out just then, the first time I saw it, I thought, God, that is lifelike. That is incredibly good. Yeah. I think that takes incredible amount of stamina to be able to do that. It's quirky. We love it here, and let's see where he is in the audience in the show tonight. In the show, what am I talking about? I'm getting all my words mixed up. In the stadium tonight, somewhere he will be there, and let's see if he can stand still while England are winning 5-0, Mark.
Yeah. Also, before we close Cox's box on Dr. Congo, I think it's only fair to play what I always assumed to be Dr. Congo's national anthem. And it can double up as being pretty useful in the hydration break. So I think we've got clip number 6. Do you remember this from back in the day, people? Bongo.
Way down deep in the middle of the Congo, a hippo took an apricot, a guava, and a mango. He stuck it with the others and he danced a diddy tango. The rhino said, I know, we'll call it Umbango. Umbango, the diddy Congo. Python picked the passions with the mama, said the mandarin. The parrot painted bandits got the hunk of voodoo land it is. So when it comes to sun and fun and goodness in the jungle, they all prefer the sunny, funny one they call Umbango. Umbango, diddy Congo. The new jungle drink with a taste of 9 exotic fruits.
Great national anthem. Great national anthem.
I can't wait to watch them sing it, Mark. The great thing about that advert from 1994 is there isn't 1 millisecond of it that would be seen as appropriate now. We had no idea. That was great fun to us back then. It wasn't until the lefty libtards came in and told us that was all bad that we didn't realise that fun was racist, Mark.
Yeah. There you go. I mean, actually watching it again, I don't think it's racist, is it? I mean, the AI images. So
there's nothing racist
about technology of showing Dr. Congo as a bloody great gorilla. Well, that's down to AI, right? Back in the day when we had hand-drawn animated cartoons, they're nothing like as racist as the AI-generated images, for crying out loud. Pooch tells me we've got a couple of super chats. Then we'll go to the news. Are you sure the nickname isn't the Leotards? Yeah, should be. Great one, Cookie Boy. Thanks to Biscuit Face. Great to have you with us again. £9.99 from Biscuit Face. Glad you're enjoying the show. Let's go to Edward Hughes with the news. He's nicked, I think, one of my dodgy football shirts. And then we'll be joined by Patrick Basham, who's got some absolutely eye-watering opinion poll evidence of what the Americans are making of the tournament over there. But first, in one of my own dodgy football shirts, I believe, here's Edward Hughes with the news.
Good morning, I'm Edward Hughes Starmers, finally shuffling off after his defence master plan, slapping on £15 billion for drones, hypersonics, and a fancy hybrid navy, while quietly carving out a £5 billion black hole for whoever follows. Brilliant timing, mate. The knob of the North's basically measuring the curtains for number 10, though he'll apparently keep popping back to Manchester, like it's a long commute, promising radical devolution and fixing our broken politics. King Charles has sensibly decided the freshly refurbished Buckingham Palace isn't for living in. Smart man. Why rattle around in a £370 million money pit when you can dodge the drama? England are smashing it at the World Cup. Fans behaving excellently abroad, naturally. While at home, we're still rowing about NHS maternity reports, migrant rules, and whether ditching maths tests for diversity was peak civil service genius. Laters, Tigers.
Thanks, Ed Hughes, with the news in the, was that the Curacao shirt? I think it was. Anyway, welcome, a warm welcome back to the show to Patrick.
No, Dr.
Basham.
Congo shirt.
Was that a Dr. Congo shirt?
Yes,
okay,
big fan. Big fan.
Yeah. God, I'm going to be in all sorts of trouble to say they all look the same, aren't I? That you can't say that these days about football shirts even. But we're now joined by Patrick Basham from the Democracy Institute, wizard pollster. I can still remember, Patrick, on the night of the 2016 presidential election, you helped me earn some money by confidently predicting Trump would beat Hillary Clinton against the odds. You were proven completely right. But I just want to play a very, very short clip because I want to know, especially given my gambling over this World Cup is going horrifically badly, Patrick, I want us to play a little short clip of your Freedom Index, which is clip number 8. And I want to know all about what the Freedom Index is because it claims to have a 91% accuracy and predictions. I'm all over that to try and recover my betting losses. So have we got clip number 8, Pooch?
Democracy Institute's Freedom to Win predictor is 91% accurate, proven during the group phase of the 2026 World Cup. Freedom to Win, the ultimate economic edge.
You've got to tell me about Freedom to Win. My predictions have been the other 9%, basically, to get up to 100%. You've got 91% accuracy. What is the Freedom Index? How have you predicted it, and how have you got 91% accuracy?
Sure. Freedom to Win is something we started in actually back in 2010. This is, I think, the 9th iteration for each of the UEFA Euros and the FIFA World Cups. And so what we do is we take the best available data on economic freedom for each of the competitors, the national teams, the national countries. We synthesize that data. We weight it according to our own weird and wonderful measurements on our own data. And we come up with, in this case, a FIFA World Cup 2026 economic freedom ranking. And what we do is we take the obvious on-field, the tangible talent of these countries, the coaching levels, et cetera, and we throw in also the economic freedom ranking, and we end up with a way of judging who is going. It's basically a way of judging value. It's not saying that a team that appears to be great on paper is going to lose, is going to go out in the group phase because they have a poor economic freedom ranking. But it's a way of determining whether or not they're actually going to win the thing, for example. So it's a way of finding value, particularly over the years, over the tournaments. It's been particularly effective in identifying smaller but economically freer nations that do better than expected, right, against the conventional wisdom. Switzerland's been our best over the years, over the tournament. Switzerland's been our best. They've always overperformed vis-a-vis the bookmaker odds and the conventional wisdom. And so in this tournament, for example, if you bet early on Canada or Australia, Norway's been our dark horse throughout. To countries like that, Ecuador getting into the knockout round, those sorts of things. So what happened with the knockout phase, the 32 countries taken from the original 48, is we identified 29 of them correctly, hence the 91% prediction accuracy. And so we're now rolling through the round of 32. Largely so far so good. So that's where we are. It's a fun. Initially started out as just a lot of fun for us, sort of free market types, to sort of play with these major soccer football tournaments. But the more, as it's proven itself, tournament after tournament, to be more accurate than both the conventional wisdom and most of the bookmakers' odds, we've gotten more and more serious about it.
That's really interesting. So you obviously need good players, probably a sort of footballing tradition, 2 or 3 superstars in your team. But being a country that has basically an economically free environment appears to be correlated with success on the pitch. That is fascinating. And Patrick, later in the show, and I'll send over the data to you because you're much better at crunching the numbers than I am. I've got my own theory about there is now conclusive evidence for European teams that you are better to be out of the EU than in the EU, and you should not be considering joining the EU. I've got all the data on that. So as a European team, I've got my own Brexit Freedom Index coming up later in the show. Now, you've done some more polling about how the Americans are seeing the World Cup, and I find this fascinating because I'm someone who always kind of thinks that sport and politics should be kept rather different, but I'm not really sure that we can keep them completely different. Firstly, you've asked people, how far do you think the USA will go? That's image 6. I think images 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10, Pooch, are going to be all of the bar graphs from the Democracy Institute's research. So this is asking the American public, how far do you think America will go? I would say, quite a cautious bunch here, right? If you ask the English how far England would go, you usually get 20, 30, 40% who think we're going to win the bloody thing. 16% say round of 32, already in that against Bosnia tonight. The Americans seem to be pretty phlegmatic and objective about where they're going to get to. I think I would probably peg the USA to get to the quarterfinals, probably no further, but that would be quite an achievement. What do we make of this? Are the Americans a philosophical bunch, all in all, Patrick?
Yeah, well, the impression going in, the sense going in was that the Americans would do okay, but not great. And then as soon as they destroyed Paraguay in their first game, everyone not only got more interested, but far more excited and enthusiastic. And immediately people started thinking, hey, we can go quite far in this. And so there is a lot of that. Now, as you say, like 1 in 5 think they could get to the semifinal, final, even win it. But I think it's actually, as you say, it's a fairly realistic, fairly sort of mature perspective on it. Our predictor has always had them reaching the 16, possibly getting further, but at least a round of 16. And most people think that's absolutely realistic. And it shows you how the team and the tournament has captured the imagination here in America to a degree that's probably overreached. It's gone beyond what most people thought going in. So I think it's one of those classic cases, right, with a World Cup in the host country, particularly a host country that doesn't have the world's most massive football or soccer tradition, is that as long as America's in the tournament will continue to be a great success. And most Americans think that's going to at least be for another week or 10 days.
Now, what about the economy? Okay, because I tend to be a bit sceptical about this. We're always told that, if we host the Olympics, it's going to completely turn around London. I know in the States, there's an idea if a team relocates to another city, it will be a huge boost to the city. But what about hosting this tournament? Is World Cup tournament an economic plus or an economic minus for America? 61% say an economic plus. I reckon you interviewed a large number of publicans and landlords in Boston, Patrick, for whom it was a massive economic plus. 39% say a minus. I can't really see how it could be a minus, right? I mean, the hospitality trade, the travel trade, the hotel trade, especially the hotel trade, can obviously dial up the price of a hotel room way beyond normal prices. 61% say it's an economic boost to the country. Do you agree with them? Is it an economic boost to the country, or is it just displacement activity? All this money would have been spent anyway, one way or another.
Yeah, I mean, I've always been a contrarian on Olympics and World Cups, etc., and new sports stadiums and things like that. I don't think that the evidence is there. I don't think the evidence is that they tend to be economic net losers. But the public perception, and I think, and this shows up in our poll here, the public perception is usually that they are a winner. People think of the tourists coming in. They see the activity. They see the quote-unquote wealth that's created. They don't see the wealth that is lost or is displaced, or the fact that a lot of this wealth is simply being redistributed amongst sort of different actors here. But most people think that all of these tours, they see these largely full stadiums. They see the crowds. They see the Scots, the Scots drinking Boston dry and the English drinking Dallas dry. And they think, boy, this is really working. We're really getting money from other people. I think when all is said and done, the dust settles, it won't be such a big economic win. But it does, that mindset follows along, it parallels the sense that it's a successful tournament, right? So everyone is looking at this tournament as half full, rather than maybe a month or two ago looking at it a little more half empty.
Okay, let's run through your other findings quite quickly, because one's about whether it's making Americans feel more patriotic, both by hosting the tournament. That's image number 8. And presumably, actually, if America go really deep in the tournament, that will kind of boost national pride. Is co-hosting a successful World Cup improving America's global image? A lot, say 14%. Another 39% say a little, 47% think no difference. But if my maths are right, that means a narrow majority do think this is improving America's global image. Let's have a look at image number 9 as well. Is the World Cup making you feel more or less patriotic? Now, right, 74% say the same. So it's the same. That might include people who are already dialed up to 10 on patriotism, who can't get even more patriotic, but 20% say more patriotic by hosting this football tournament. 6% say less. Who the hell are those miserable sods, Patrick?
Those are the people who are really the most hardcore, anti-Trump, anti-football, anti-sport, anti-competition, anti-success, anti-American. So the better the American team does, the better it looks for Trump. The more pissed off they are about the whole thing. And the 20%, those are the casual fans who weren't going to watch anything, heard America was doing well, starting to watch it, getting caught up in it, because of course the World Cup is the ultimate nationalistic, patriotic event, right? It's where all those stereotypes, good and bad, come to the fore. And for many of us, we think it's tremendous in all facets. But that's why enough Americans are feeling better about their country to give a sort of vibe and a buzz to this whole thing above the sport into the political arena as well.
And then lastly, this is where it does sort of bleed over straight into politics. To what extent should President Trump get the credit? Because I guess if people are feeling it's adding to the economy, they're feeling more pride, they think that the US image abroad is improved, you'd kind of expect the incumbent administration to get a benefit from that. So let's have a look at image number 10, which goes straight into hard politics about how responsible is Trump for this successful World Cup tournament. Very, 25%. 32% say somewhat, and 43% say not at all. Well, I guess like not at all is basically sort of neutralish. But again, you've got a majority here who are crediting the president to a considerable or to a modest degree with the successful tournament. Or is this basically just the same as asking people whether they're Republicans or Democrats? And if you're on the GOP side, you're crediting Trump.
Well, most of that
43%. It's more than that, isn't it? It wouldn't be 57%.
Most of that 43% is anti-Trump Democratic vote. But what you have here, see, Trump put his arms around this. America was awarded this World Cup when Trump was president in his first term. He's been all over this, right? His imprint is on it. And so if the American team had lost 5-0 in each of their group phase games and been knocked out, the stadiums were half empty, there was hooliganism, then the thing would be viewed domestically as a disaster, and Trump would suffer as a consequence. But American team's doing great, the thing looks good, everybody's peaceful, there's lots of good vibes and energy. Americans think it's bringing money into the country. So Trump gets the benefit, right? He hasn't had many wins politically for a little while now. But this is one that is already at least a small win for him. And politics, elections are decided at the margin often, we know. And so, again, if America continues to roll through the tournament, if everything continues to go well in a sort of macro sense for the World Cup, and Trump is going to start, no doubt, appearing at the games on the jumbo screens, it's only going to help him, and more importantly, in the short to medium term, his Republican Party looking at the midterms.
Patrick, it's absolutely fascinating stuff. Thanks for sharing all of that polling with us. People can find you, I think, on X as Patrick Basham DI on X. Make sure you follow Patrick on that. And what's the Democracy Institute's website address, Patrick?
It's simply democracyinstitute.org.
democracyinstitute.org. If you get any more economic models, any more polling, share them with us, Patrick. We'll have you back on the show. Fascinating stuff. Thank you so much, my friend. Speak to you soon. Let's bring back in Paul Cox, the fox in the box, because I've got some stuff that I want to put in the box, right? Patrick,
Sorry, Mark. We have to address a couple of things here. It looked like Patrick was being. Was he okay? It looked like he was being filmed by his. By his executioner. He seemed to be on his knees, tied to a radio, like he was doing some sort of Joseph Fritzl experience. He's okay, is he?
He's okay, but we have to keep him in a hostage situation to make sure that he appears on the show at exactly the time we need. You can't let him actually leave the front door. So, and we make sure the camera angle does not show you the 6 or 7 armed guards that UK Live Online have paid to ensure that he's not able to escape his Washington DC apartment. So we will go to unbelievable lengths in order to make sure we bring you all of the key news about this World Cup. Now, look, he's got this idea that how much is the ransom? Well, it's going to have to be a lot of super chats before we let him out. He's a key part of the program.
Sorry, we've got a world record super chat, Mark. World record super chat.
Okay.
Here we go. Have a look at this.
Meat pie sausage
Good
roll.
Lord.
Come on, England. It's a $49.99 from Biscuit Face. There you go. We've broken our record. That might even. Thank you, Biscuit Face. Greatly appreciated. I think we might even be some way to reaching the ransom that we need for Basham to be released. Now, Paul, before we look towards tonight's matches, the England one most obviously, I want to share with you the model that I have put together. And whilst I was watching all the matches throughout the night, I had my whole research team, whole load of economists working on this, endless calculators and models. And although Patrick there was saying that kind of being an economically free capitalist type country tends to be helpful to you, I've worked out it's more about your constitution. So by which I mean the constitution of the country, not just whether you're fit enough to run for 90 minutes, right? And so I've broken down the 16 European teams, and I've put them into 3 categories. The biggest category includes 10 teams who are in the European Union and show no signs of ever leaving the European Union. That's France, Belgium, Portugal, Croatia, Spain, Austria, Czech Republic, Germany, Holland, and Sweden. So that's the biggest block. But then there are 6 more. Okay, there are 3 who are out of the European Union and are not going to rejoin, not in a month of Sundays. And those are England, Norway, and Switzerland. Brexit, Nexit, and Swexit, right? Those 3 are clearly not going to be in the EU. And then I've got the last 3, right, who aren't technically in the EU, but are desperate to get in the EU. These are the potential accession countries. They're not in, but give them half a chance. They want to be controlled by the Brussels bureaucracy. And those 3 are Bosnia and Herzegovina, Turkey, and I'm including Scotland in that camp, right? So Scotland, in my view, are an accession country. Now, have a look at this. Let's look at Brexit, Nexit, and Swexit. That's the English, the Norwegians, and the Swiss. Played 10 matches, 23 points. I'm treating winning a knockout game as 3 points, right? So 3 points for a win, 1 for a draw, 0 for a defeat. 23 points in 10 matches. 2.3 points per game for the Brexit, Swexit, Nexit trio. 2.3 a game. Heroic levels of return. Easily Premier League winning sort of numbers. Let's look at the Remainers, that bunch of 10. Well, they've got 52 points from 35 matches. A pretty mediocre mid-table 1.49 points a game. Very, very kind of Portsmouth levels of performance there by the Remainers, Paul. And then look at the accession countries. Oh, you'd accept a lot less than 1.4. Maybe Portsmouth were an accession country. So let's look at Scotland, who I think want to get back in the EU, Bosnia and Turkey. Well, they have got 10 points from 9 matches, 3 wins, 1 draw, 5 defeats, 1.11 points per game. Relegation form. So are you going to put that economic model into Cox's box? I basically proved if you are out of the EU and staying out, you are going to get twice as many points per game as if you're one of these countries that wants to join the Brussels bureaucracy. And if you're in it, you're going to be mediocre. 1.49 points a game. Case proven, I put to you, Paul.
Case proven. Look, as was said in 2020, follow the science. Follow the science. Mark has presented science there, undisputable science, that those outside the EU never willing to return because it is a disastrous cabal of something I can't say on YouTube because I want us to get paid. That it's science, Mark. There's nothing you can do about it. Talking about science, by the way, earlier on I said that I've done some research. There's no Premier League players in Dr. Congo's side. That, of course, was wrong on all fronts, actually, because I had done no research on that level whatsoever. So I thought I'd open it up to the people watching, and they came back in their droves to tell me that 2 Sunderland players and 1 Newcastle player, Mazuko and Sadika from Sunderland, and of course Wizza from Newcastle.
Great player.
So I don't know how I didn't just think of that off the top of my head, but great. I always want to know how these players, leave Dr. Congo's surgery where it's all 100 degrees and there's loads of rainforests, and they turn up in the northeast of England and wonder, what on earth have they done to deserve this? So fair play to everybody in the chat for telling us that. And by the way, also fair play to everyone in the chat for their comments, because this is the first day I've watched the comments, and these are some funny guys and girls, Mark.
Top stuff. Now, look, I made a technical error while I was going through the predictions, Paul. I should have got Patrick's prediction for USA versus Bosnia, but I didn't want to endanger him anymore. That if he'd predicted the wrong thing from the bottom of his heart, God only knows what would have happened to him in that hostage position. As Nick Nack says, he looks like he's changed to something. Is he safe? Blink twice if you need our help, Patrick. So I didn't get his prediction. I didn't want to put him in any more personal danger than he was. So I'm going to need your prediction, Paul, for USA versus Bosnia, just so we can put that on the sheet. I've gone for 3-0 to the Americans. So you can't have 3-0.
I'm not sure it's going to be 3-0. They've got the home advantage. I always think this really does help. I'm going to go with 2-1. They're just going to edge it, and I think it's going to be one of those sort of 97th minute goals, as if it's been scripted by Hollywood, Mark. But yeah, US to sneak through.
Let's have a look at image 13 then. That's the US against Bosnia and Herzegovina. I think it's a bit cruel, isn't it, that the USA have to take on two teams, Bosnia and Herzegovina. Seems a bit unfair to me. I mean, do they make 11 substitutions at half time or something? But there you go. Paul's gone for, do you say a 1-0? I think the Americans will be a bit more comfortable than that. Before we get on to England's matchup against Dr. Congo, the other one to look at is Belgium-Senegal. Now, I've been looking at some of the previews of this. Some of the pundits are saying this could be the most physical game so far. Now, actually, I would usually associate Belgium with playing a nice chocolatey football.
Is that me playing for Brazil?
Actually playing for Belgium. Yeah.
My God, there I am. What am I doing?
There is Paul Cox with his standard breakfast of the day, a tray full of massive chocolate. Now, Belgium, stuttering start, really, but then they blew away their final opponents. They always flatter to deceive, don't they? I mean, they're probably one of the best teams in Europe never to have won a major tournament. But I've gone for a 1-1. I think it will probably go to extra time and penalties. I can't really split the teams. Senegal, I still think should be considered African champions. They were stripped of that some weeks after the tournament ended and it was handed to Morocco. But you think Belgium are just going to edge it, Paul, right?
I do, yeah. Had you not gone for that prediction, I may have considered that myself, because I can see exactly how you arrived at that scoreline. But if I had to choose in 90 minutes for a winning team, I'd still go Belgium at this point. They do have lots of individual quality. They have game winners that can just open up their defence and maybe sneak a winner. So I'm going to go for 1-0 Belgium.
Okay.
Because I like the chocolate as well, of course.
Yeah, you get the chocolate for that. Yeah. Are you being paid £22,500 an hour to promote Belgian chocolate, Paul? Are you on a side hustle?
It's a little bit less than that, not a lot less than that. But you know, these things get blown up in the paper. I saw that mentioned several times in the paper. I know the story you're talking about. I am getting tens of thousands of pounds to eat Belgian chocolate. That is correct, Mark. I'm not going to say how much I'm getting paid, but you're right. And you know, we like to be transparent on this program. And I like my chocolate, and I like tens of thousands of pounds. So why not?
Yeah, great. Okay, well, I think we might have the prediction slide which is ready to put it up. But here is the big one. Oh, England headline tomorrow: whisked off. Yeah, well, I think there's quite a lot of Dr. Congo fans in the chat, isn't that?
No, there's not. I tell you what, there is. There's a lot of cynicism amongst the English, and you know, I'm proud of that. I'm proud of that. We don't like to get too ahead of ourselves. We're quite happy to poke fun at ourselves. There's also probably some Scots in there. Let's not, and some Irish maybe in our following there, Mark. So they're secretly not going to out themselves, but they don't want us to win. Of course they don't, because they're rubbish. And
right. So let's move on. Let's move on to the big one then. England versus Dr.
Hold the
Congo.
front page, chaps. Hold the front page. Have a look at this from Biscuit Face. Coming up now.
What is Biscuit? Right. Okay.
£99. He's broken his own record. £100 from Biscuit Face. Biscuit Face, we will release Patrick Basham. We will release Patrick Basham. You've definitely met the ransom money. You star. Keep watching the show. Spread the word. And thank you for your incredibly generous super chats. I should just remind all of you, if you do put in a super chat, we'll definitely read it out on screen. But make sure you're subscribed to the channel, right? The subscriptions have been going up and up and up and up. But we had to reboot the whole system for UK Live Online. So make sure you're still subscribed. And please do give us just the thumbs up on this video. Helps us with the algorithm.
Yeah,
and as you know, with my Brexit, Nexit, Swexit, I'm all about the algorithm. So let's move on to the big one. England versus Dr. Congo, image 11. Let's see whether AI has been slightly racist or played it with a straight bat. Oh, I think that's pretty straight bat. I don't know if there are any leopards in Dr. Congo. I mean, it's always a bit weird that we're the lions, aren't we? You don't see many lions in the wild, certainly in the part of southwest London I come from. Patrick is freed. You're right, Lou. Patrick has now been released. I can confirm that live on air. Littlewood and Cox, great porno names. So let's get into this one. How are we gonna break down Dr. Congo? Or is Dr. Congo going to make us wait even longer than it takes to get a GP appointment before we can actually score a goal, Paul? What's your take?
It's very simple, this, for me, and I'm sure Tuchel's saying the same before the game as well. It's just about courage. It's just about relaxing, playing the game that we can play with those players, making sure we're not just, playing side to side. Have the courage to play down the channels. Have the courage to run into the channels. Don't worry about losing. If we score and they score, we score again. All I would say is just go out there. Don't be afraid. Do not be afraid. I feel like I'm giving a pre-match speech now, but just do not be afraid. We have the quality, play without abandon, and we can win this game comfortably, like we can win most games well if we just play with courage. We've not seen that since Croatia. I think we will win. I'm confident we will win, but only if we play without fear. We played with too much fear. Panama, Ghana, what are you worried about? I know it's the group stage, but go and play. Score 3, concede 2, whatever it might be, but go and play will be my message to the players when they inevitably all call me up later today.
So I see Have a Pint says it could be a 2-2 draw. Let's pull up my bold chasing my losses. 2-2 says Have a Pint between Dr. Congo and England. Here is my prediction. Look at my losses. God, it's just getting desperate. I'm going to start following Patrick's freedom index. Now Biscuit Face has secured Patrick's freedom. No reason why we shouldn't follow Patrick's freedom index to make predictions in future. I've put 20 quid down, odds of 7.5 for England to follow the Cox strategy. Play without fear, boys, and to win by 4 or more goals. That would net me 150 quid, and I wouldn't have to be pimping myself out to promote gold or cryptocurrency anymore. But I am open to all offers and opportunities from crypto or gold companies in order to cover my losses. That's what I've gone for. Look, if we do get through, we're going to be leaving our present hosts predict the red cards. That's Wadaz says, I'm saying at least 1 for Dr. Congo. Dr. Congo is brutal. Yeah, he will go at us without anaesthetic. There's no two ways about that. And it will be a pretty brutal scalpel, I think, used on the England team. But yeah, if we do get through, and we're all feeling super confident about that, we'll be off to Mexico City next, Paul. So we will be, I don't know what kind of immigration visas we're going to need to get in and out of the USA. We might not be going back unless we can beat Mexico in their own backyard. That will be a pretty epic game if we get through that one, and a really, really hard challenge. But Paul, what do you make of how the Americans, who I've had a bit of a go at on this program, have hosted the tournament so far? What would you score them out of 10? Or is it too early to say? This, I should add, is now the most attended in terms of spectators sporting tournament in human history. That number was passed at the weekend, so it's going to blast away every single possible record. Okay, there are more games, but magnificent or a bit over synthetic and commercialised? What do we have in Cox's box to talk us through that?
I think they've done extremely well. I think the conclusion is somewhere between magnificent and this kind of... Look, the Americans don't quite get football, but they are getting there. They come on leaps and bounds since 1994. This is a very good tournament, well attended. I think the things that are a shame are ticket prices. I think that some of the new rules, I think the way that they controlled flags and what can be waved, etc. I don't like that. Of course, I'm a free speech advocate. I think just go and let fans be fans. But there's been no trouble. Everybody's getting on. The games have been fantastic. The stadia are amazing in the USA. The TV screens are ridiculous, almost as big as the portions they serve up in the restaurants. So I'm going to say they're doing very, very well. There are things that I would do differently, but that's just because of my political persuasion. But I think they've done incredibly well, Mark.
Yeah, I agree with that. I actually think there's a case to knock it all on the head and just get the Americans to host every single World Cup, right? Tony says Pickford worries me with his footwork in the box. Yeah.
Pickford worries me because he's mentally ill, not because of anything else. He's the perfect mix of agile and mentally ill, Pickford. He's just the right mix. He's old school goalkeeper. You never know whether he's going to save the goal or kick the defender in the nuts. It's brilliant. Pickford is a wonderful goalkeeper. I won't hear anything against him.
Do we know whether Dr. Congo is a psychologist or a psychotherapist? It might be just what Pickford needs then.
It could do, but we don't want him changed at all. We just don't want him changed at all. Dr. Congo is he can have his opinion. Of course he can. He can get out his syringe and inject the vitamins required, but he just needs to leave Pickford alone. We need Pickford. I think Pickford could be tonight somebody who does save us from elimination. I really do. A couple of great saves. Jude Bellingham with a couple. Harry Kane, Bosch, 3-0. See you later, lovely jubbly. Off we go to Mexico. Mike Graham has offered to pay first-class tickets for Mark and I to go to Mexico City. That is a guarantee, and we will be there, and we will be holding him to that. So, come on, England.
So look, I think we should say thank you, America. I think they've done a fantastic job of hosting this tournament so far. I've forgiven them for July the 4th, 1776. Have you, Paul? I mean, it was a long time ago.
You're more forgiving than I am, but I'm coming to that. Yeah, that's okay.
You're coming to you're reconciling. You're going through the 5 stages of grief of losing the 13 colonies a little bit slowly, right? I've pretty much got over it. And I always ask Americans, I'm delighted they went for their independence. How is that low tax, low regulation stuff working out for you guys since 1776? How is it working out for you? But they've done a great job. And of course, this Saturday, isn't it, will be their, what do you call it, quarter millennial? So 250 years to the day since independence. So they're playing tonight. So we thought we would go out by saying, thank you, America. Have a great celebration tonight when you beat the Bosnians. Have an even better celebration on Saturday when you celebrate 250 years of freedom and being the land of the free and the home of the brave. Who knows? The motherland might even be facing you later on in the tournament. Paul, thanks for being the Cox in the box for us today. Look forward to what's in Cox's box tomorrow. Thanks all of you for watching. Hope you've enjoyed the show. Hit like, hit subscribe. Laters Tigers. Go America. Here is the Star Spangled Banner to play us out. That's clip number 13, Pooch. Laters.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the 12